Hey, Jeremy, it's Shantanu.
Okay,
Uh,
now, hey, one thing. I'm from Arkansas. We don't know how to pronounce names, so
that's
you have
perfect.
to forgive my ignorance. I'm not very good at pronouncing names. If your name is like Jeremy, I can usually pronounce that, but your name is very unique. So you were blessed with a good name. I always tell my parents I wanted to change my name because it's so boring. So well done. All right, okay, so here's the rules. Okay, if you're new to the call, where do you live? What do you sell? And then what's your question?
Sure. I'm from India. I help course creators transition their course into a mastermind offer.
Okay.
The question is, my sales funnel is as follows. I do a 15-minute call, then I make them watch a webinar, and then I go through the full call process with them. I've finished studying the program and gone through everything. And if I have to do one call, I know exactly what I have to do. But how do I break that up into a 15-minute call and then into a 30-minute call? What is that journey I take them through in terms of my questions? Where do I drop off? Where do I pick up, especially?
Oh, so are you asking me like on your first call, how far into the questions do you go before you invite them to the webinar?
Yes, so
Oh,
yeah, yes, exactly.
okay, perfect. Yeah, that's a good question. So you basically have a two-call close with your
Yes.
process. And that's pretty normal with your industry that you're in with coaching and those type of things with what you sell. So with a two-call close, what you're going to do is you're going to ask your connecting questions, your situation, problem awareness and solution awareness that pull out emotion, okay,
Mhm.
your consequence questions, and then you're going to transition to based on what you've told me, and then you're going to invite them to the webinar, okay. When you get back with them after the webinar, that's when you're going to answer their questions. And what I typically do, it's you don't want to do this. You don't want to say, okay, what questions do you have? Because then they're going to pepper you with 12 different questions that a lot of times have nothing to do with really what's going on. Okay. And a lot of times, if you can just pre answer the 2 or 3 main questions or concerns that most people have, and you just answer those, it just kind of answers all of the other questions in the same time. So what I teach companies to do that are in your space, and this is what I did when I sold coaching as well and did really well, is I would say, okay, so John, what I'll do is I'll go through 2 questions, or let's say it's 3 questions. What I'll do is I'll go through 3 questions that most people have when they're looking to, and then whatever their benefit is, when they're looking to do business with us or something like that. So what I'll do is I'll go through 2 or 3 questions that most people have when they're looking to do business with us. Question number 1 is blank. I don't know what that is. So maybe it's, how much is this going to cost me or something like that. And you answer that and you go through that. Okay. And then question number 2 is, and you answer that and you go through that. Okay. Now, in what I sold with coaching, I would say question number 1 is, what do I need to invest in my business to really profit from it within the first 90 days? And then I would answer that. Does that make sense? And then question number 2 is, what type of support and training am I going to get once I start? And then I would answer how that worked. Okay. And then at the end of that, I would ask my commitment questions and close them. And that's
Understood.
it. Does that help?
So what, yes, what you said right now is what I should be doing after the webinar when they've scheduled the follow-up call with me to make the buying decision.
Yeah. So the your first call, like your discovery call with what you sell, like I said, this is for your industry. If I'm Owen and I'm selling, kitchen repair and like house remodeling, obviously it's going to be completely different for what he sells. But for your space, yes. So if it's a 2 call close, that first call is more of the discovery call, or what we call like a clarifying call or something like that. And that's a 15 to 20-minute call to pull out their emotion. We're going to go all the way to the transition based on what you've told me, what we're doing. And then we're going to invite them to the webinar. And then we have a scheduled time with them after that webinar. We don't say, hey, go to that webinar and just hit me back up, because you're going to lose most of those people. So you want to have a scheduled time. If that webinar is during the day and you're still working, you usually want to schedule with them after that webinar is over. So let's say you invite 3 or 4 leads to an afternoon webinar at 1 o'clock your time. You want to have those 3 people try to be scheduled right after that if you can. Far more powerful than if you schedule them 2 days out, because most of them are not going to show up. Okay. And then you're going to answer those questions. You're going to say, well, what I can do. So and here's what I would also do. I'd throw this into you as well. So I would say, okay, did you make it through? So first of all, my first question would be, okay, John, did you make it through the webinar? Oh yeah, I made it through the webinar. Did you get bored? And I'd always say that. And they're like, oh no, I didn't get bored. It was really good. That kind of breaks the ice. I just laugh with them. I'm like, did you get bored? Say it like that. Don't say, did you get bored, John? Sounds weird. Okay. So you just want to joke with them. Like you're joking with a friend, like, did you make it through the webinar? You did. Okay. Did you get bored? Oh no, Jeremy, it was really good, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So let's do this just so I know where you're at with other people that are looking to partner with us or whatever you say with what you sell. But on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 that this is really not for you, and 10 that this might be what you're looking for, where would you, where would you rate yourself at? Now, notice how I said that. Because when I came into coaching, the way they would teach you how to do that, they'd be like, okay, ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 that it's a no, and 10 that you're absolutely ready to sign up and pay today. Where would you rate yourself at? And I'm like, dude, that's just going to trigger resistance. Like, no, that does not work. So if you've been taught to do that and you sell coaching, do not do that. Does not work. Triggers resistance, okay? So notice how I make it more neutral. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 that it's really not for you, and 10 that it might be what you're looking for, where would you rate yourself at? Notice how on a scale of 10 and 10 that it might be what you're looking for. You see the keyword might be. When you say might be, nobody has any resistance to that because you're not assuming that it is. That one little tweak is the difference between you selling this much compared to you being able to sell this much. Okay, it's really important, okay? Now, if they say, oh, I'm a 1, that's pretty low. Why so low? If they're anywhere from 1 to 4, that's pretty low. Why so low? Now, why would I want to ask that question? Why so low?
So you can clarify and probe.
Because I'm going to find out what their concern is, right? Usually if somebody says 1 through 4, probably not what they're looking for. Most of the time, I found, right? And people are always telling me like, oh my gosh, like you don't put sales pressure on, like the way you sell doesn't work. I'm like, really interesting. I made almost $3 million a year and was ranked number 50 in the entire world, but I guess I got lucky somehow. I'm not sure. So think about that, okay? So when you put pressure on them, they push back. You're just creating more resistance you have to deal with. They just take the pressure off, okay? So if they say 1 through 4, most of the time I'm like, well, maybe it's not what you're looking for. And sometimes they'd come back, well, no, it is, but I had a question, okay? Now, if they say 5 through 7, I would say that's kind of in the middle. Why so in the middle? See how you do that? If they say 5 through 7, and that's okay. If they say 5 through 10, perfect. That's where I want them to be. If they say 5 through 7, that means what's going on in their mind. They're interested, but they have some concerns. And that's okay. I'm here to help them resolve those. Okay? Maybe they don't understand something. So if they say 5 through 7, that's kind of in the middle. Why so in the middle? And they're going to do what? Tell me why they're in the middle. They're going to tell me their concerns. Do you see how it's so easy to get concerns out of people? Like, I'm not going to say, what is your objection, sir? Because that sounds weird, right? Or what objections do you have for me? Because that sounds retarded. You don't want to say that, okay? If you say that right now and I offended you, I apologize. But just don't say that, okay? Slap you in the face. So if you say 5 through 7, that's kind of in the middle, John. Why so in the middle? Now, if they say 8, 9, and 10, you're going to say, whoa. That's pretty high. Why so high? Whoa. That's pretty high. Why so high? Why would I want to say it that way?
So you can ask them, make them convince themselves as to why it's 8 or 9 or 10. Yeah,
so they're going to say, well, I'm a 9 because I really like this and I like this and I like that. And they're telling you, but more importantly, they're telling themselves. And when they tell themselves over and over why they like it so much or why they have to have it, it's very hard for them to come back and say, oh, I'm just looking around and I'm going to get back to you in 6 months. It's almost impossible because they've already told themselves why they have to have it. And it's so much easier for them to go out and find funds for it because they've told themselves why they have to have it. Okay. Remember, we talked about this maybe a couple weeks ago on one of these training calls. I don't know if you were on here, but when you learn NEPQ, when you ask the right questions at the right time from the course you're going through, and you really have your structure down, it's not just asking 3 of the questions you've learned and then just pitching it like you used to. You'll get a few more sales, but it's not going to like dramatically increase your numbers. Okay. It's learning the whole process and the psychology behind it so that if they throw you off the path, you know exactly how to react to that. It's all about your reaction. So if they come across weird and you're like, or they come across aggressive to you, how do you react with that? It's not perfect every time, right? That's why you have to go through the material over and over and over and over and rehearse and rehearse and practice and practice. I could go on for another hour, but we'll end it right there and then we'll go through another question. But your questioning ability takes your offer, whatever you're selling, okay, that's already up here. So right now, when you start with them, your price is here, your offer or value is here. It's like even, or maybe even lower before you even have that first call in their eyes, okay? Your questioning ability can keep the price here, but as you bring out more emotion, the value and the benefits and the problem solving of your offer gets it all the way up here. I don't know if you can see that. Gets it all the way up here. And your price is down here. So if you sell a $100,000 offer and your price point is $10,000, but it's going to make them an extra $600,000 this year and all they have to pay is $10,000, that price seems pretty small, right? But if they think they have to pay $10,000 and I don't know if this is even going to work for me, I'm going to lose that $10,000. Do you see how you get objections because of that? Okay, does that help?
Yes, thank you, Jeremy.
Oh, you're welcome, man. You're welcome. Okay, let's see. Some of you threw your hand in the chat bar. Okay, James, you have some muscle flexing there. I will, due to the coronavirus, I got out of my CrossFit for almost 2 months and I had to do some cardio workouts down in my little gym downstairs. So I've lost my muscles, probably not like you, but give me a couple months, I'll get some of them back.
So I have 2 things happen from that question. Either they say, I'm just looking, I want the details. And I say, I can, that's great. I can give you all the details.
Here's what I want you to do. When they say, I'm just looking, I just want to know some details. You're going to ask, do you know what you're looking for? Say that. Don't say, okay, I'll give you all the details. Or you can say, all you say is, do you know what you're looking for? And that will open them up a little bit. And then you go right into your situation questions. That's just an easy bridge to your situation questions. Or you can say, yeah, we can go through the details if it's appropriate. Do you know what you're looking for? Or you can say, yeah, we can go through the details if it's appropriate. Now tell me, and then you go into your first situation question. That's just 2 different ways, Michael, to bridge into that conversation.
And well, this actually comes on to my question, which is from that question and them answering that question, whichever way they go, to the problem awareness, you have this situational questions in between. And for my particular product, I'm not sure how to use the situational questions because a lot of the situational questions in the course have been such as, so what do you have currently? What do you use currently? Whereas for a lot of people, because it's a retreat that helps people with their happiness and their confidence, it may be the first time they've attempted.
So you want to find out what they're currently doing to work on themselves. That's what you're finding out. Like, what are they currently doing to create that happiness in their life? So you'd wrap your situation questions around that. All the situation questions are for whatever you guys or gals sell is, what are they currently doing now to solve that? What are they currently doing now? If I sold cars, what type of vehicles do you drive now? If I sold houses, what type of house do you have now? If I sold, dieting. So what are you doing right now for different diets? Or what do you do right now to stay healthy? So all you're doing is plugging in what they're currently doing. So with yours, I mean, I'd have to know more about your space, right?
So fundamentally, people are either, you know, they want more happiness in their life, or they want more confidence.
So what are you doing? So what are you doing right now to gain more confidence in your life? So what are you doing right now to create more confidence and happiness in your life? You're basically just finding out what are they doing now to actually do that.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, well, I always read Bob Proctor books, or what would they say to that?
But it's, I may have, in order to even ask them that question, I've assumed that it's a confidence thing, that I don't know what they want yet, really, because they might have said, well, I wanted some more details about the program. And I say, well, let's see if I can help you first.
So you'd want to say, so do you know what you're looking for though?
Sorry, Jeremy.
So you'd want to say, do you know what you're looking for? So when they say, I want to know more details about the program, you would say, yeah, we can go through that. Do you know what you're looking for? Mm-hmm. And that should give you some ammo to develop that first question. Because when they respond to the ad, don't they know that it's something about personal development or something to increase happiness or something? What do they know when you first talk to them?
Well, they do, but they don't necessarily tell you that when you first get them on.
But what does your ad say?
Build the trust.
What does your ad say?
Well, it's a YouTube video. So it's a YouTube video, and the conversation is all about confidence.
Okay.
And then that drives.
So they already know that the reason why they responded to the ad is because of why? Because they're looking to have more confidence. Mm-hmm. Right? Otherwise, they wouldn't have responded. They just wouldn't if they had all the confidence in their life. So they already know that. So my first situation question would be, so I would say, so when they say, you know, I'm looking for more details, yeah, we can go through that. Do you know what you're looking for? Well, yeah, I'm looking for more confidence in this. Okay, and what do you do now what have you done in the past, or what do you do now to work on your confidence? That would be my first situation question for what you sell. Boom. So what are you doing now to work on your confidence to make sure you have that? Oh, well, I've been reading personal development books such as this. Okay, and how long have you been doing that? That would be my second situation question. That's exactly what I would do.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. And then what if they were to say, if you say, so do you know what you're looking for? And they say, well, I'd like the price, and I'd like the you know, and they go into sort of the hard facts about the program. Is there any way just to flip that to, or
just it'd be the same thing. Okay, that makes sense. And tell me, what are you doing now to gain that confidence that you're possibly looking for? You just go right into the first situation question. Just a nice transition. Keep it natural. Just easygoing conversation. Does that help?
Yeah, it does really help. And it's just, I'll give it a try this week. And then it's just what you don't want to do is, you know, from the active listening, it's just I want to let them say it rather than just assume and jump in. That was my only.
Yeah, and you really want to write this out. Like, you know, if you're in my one-on-one program like Matthew Boone is, and maybe you'll be able to get into it someday. That's, as you can see, that's what we do to make sure they have that sales structure, and then train them how to use it effectively, no matter how the conversation goes, right? But if you're not in that program, you really got to write down those questions. You don't want to just wing it. If you wing it, you're just not going to be as effective. And I'm not saying you're not, but just make sure you write that down on a structure the best you can with the best understanding you have, and plug that on your wall, your bathroom wall, your desk wall, where you like looking at that sucker all the time. You know, put it in your shirt pocket as you walk around town and pull it out. You know, you want to have it down almost like they're your lines as an actor in Hollywood or something. Same type of thing.
Yeah, well, that was really impressive, that one-on-one you posted last week, because I am kind of winging it compared to Matthew Boone on that call. That was really fast.
So I live in South Dakota.
Okay.
I sell consulting services, and I have about 12 companies that I've partnered with, and have about 20 different services. So how do you go about, on my cold engagement, deciding what service to go with? Like, I feel like sometimes I'm just bringing too much to the table. Does that make sense?
When you say cold messaging, are you asking me like if you're messaging somebody on LinkedIn or Facebook, or what do you mean?
It ranges. I do cold calls and cold messaging on LinkedIn and Facebook.
Okay. Well, it would depend on the company I'm calling. So are you calling companies in the same exact industry or various industries?
No. So it's mostly companies over 100 million in revenue.
Okay.
And I would say,
what is your primary core business? Like, what problems do you solve? What are the two biggest problems that you solve for those people?
I would say that my main service would be helping companies automate their accounts payable departments.
So helping them automate their what?
Accounts payable.
Okay. And if they don't automate that, what type of problems would be happening?
Typically, they're spending a lot of time doing data entry or spending times making payments or writing checks, stuffing checks.
And if
mailing.
they're doing that, what problem is that causing?
Loss of time.
And if they lose time, what issue would be from losing time?
I suppose then they're losing money.
And if they're losing money, what problems could that cause for them?
I suppose
these are questions you guys really have to think through, because a lot of times salespeople just think about the surface problems, but they don't know how to dig deep enough to really uncover their emotional problems of what them not having your service is causing them all the way down to like their inner core, where they can't even sleep at night because they're spending so much time, they're losing so much money that it's part of the reasons why their company might be folding. I mean, these are big things, right? So when I say like, what problem does that cause and what's causing that, I'm trying to get you guys to think deeper, like to go deeper. And a lot of salespeople, and it's not your fault, it's just how everybody's usually trained, are just trained to ask surface level questions. So I want you to learn how to ask questions that start at the surface, but then go far below the surface. That's what I mean by that.
Okay.
So typically you want to come up with one problem in your problem statement that pretty much anybody you call can identify with. What do you think that problem would be?
Increase profits, reduce expenses. I don't.
Okay. So you just told me what the problem was. You just told me. I'm just going to do this for you just off the top of my head. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You train a lot of people in your space too. Accounts payable, employee benefits, just different things. So the first part of the problem statement, hey, is this John? Hey, John, this is just David. I was wondering if you could possibly help me out for a moment. Sure. Yeah. What's this all about? Well, I'm not quite sure you could yet. I called your company to see if you would be open to looking at any possible hidden gaps in your accounts payable that could be causing you to blank. What's that blank?
It could be causing you to spend unnecessary time.
That could, okay, but more than time, think bigger. What's a bigger problem that unnecessary time is causing? They're losing money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hidden gaps in your accounts payable that could be causing you to lose money every month, or that could be causing you to have to hire more employees than you need every month, or whatever it is. It's all about them saying that. Now, when you say that, people are gonna be like, well, what do you mean by that? Or who is this again? The problem statement is not there to sell them. It's there to get them to want to engage in the conversation. Okay. So if you call in just talking about your solution, what do they typically do within the first 15 seconds?
Not interested.
Exactly. Because everybody and their brother and their sister calls them every single day, pitching the same solution to what you sell and probably 50 other things. And they all focus on their solution. So when you focus on a general problem that causes curiosity, you get responses like, well, what do you mean by that? Or who are you again? Or how would that work? Or I'm not sure I understand. And that's what you want. And then you go right into your personalized intro, which you need to write that out as well.
Mm-hmm.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Hey, Jeremy, how you doing?
Joe, how are you?
Doing good, my friend. So as you know, I sell solar. The one issue that I'm running into recently. So last month I had 6 sales and I had 1 cancellation, and then this month I had 6 sales and 4 cancellations. One of them being a recent one. And I'm getting the process down pretty good, and I feel like I'm not like strong.
Why do people cancel? Why do people have buyer's remorse? Anybody?
So it seems to me, it's normally people because like the loan for solar is like maximum 25 years.
People only have buyer's remorse because they were externally persuaded. They weren't internally persuaded. That's just buyer's remorse one-on-one. I'm just kind of giving you an overview. The only reason people cancel is because they weren't internally persuaded from your questions. You didn't draw out enough emotion for them to want to change. You more try to convince them externally, and that wears off. It's like going to a motivational, it's like going to a motivational event. You get all pumped up for a day or two,
Right.
and then you go back home and what happens? It wears off.
Yeah.
Right. And nothing changes. It's the same thing in selling. Go ahead.
And I feel, and I want to say, and again, I'm sure, obviously I have a lot to work on. I know that for sure. Cause like the process, I'm doing the same commitment questions. Like, is this appropriate? Or how would you like to proceed from here?
Well, okay, I want to make sure everybody understands. It's not just the questions, it's your delivery and your tone of those questions.
Okay.
A lot of people are like, well, I don't understand. I'm asking the questions. I don't know why I'm not making sales. And then we have somebody else that sells the exact same thing that's making 10 times the sales. And I'm not saying that you're doing it wrong. I want to make sure everybody understands it's not just your questions you're asking. Cause I've got inner circle members that we write out their sales structures. Like I've got two right now that sell the exact same offer, started the exact same time. One is making 4 times the sales, same script, same leads, same company. Both were neck and neck when they started. One is outselling the other 4 times. Do you know why? Because they know they're catching on and they're making the conversation natural, structured, but natural. The other one sounds like a robot. Question, answer, question, answer, question.
Right.
Sounds like an interrogation and people are closed off.
They don't like that.
Exact questions, but it's delivering the tone of those questions that sets it apart.
That makes sense. And I guess, I mean, and God forbid it happen anymore. But if you did get it canceled, like if you had someone call you, I guess if you're in my position and maybe they're like, hey, you know, we really did like it. We thought about it though, you know, a 25-year term at our age seems like that'd be a long time. So I think we're going to just cancel this.
Well, I mean, you don't have to save money on your utility bill. I mean, what's holding you back from wanting to save money on your bill though?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, right. I mean, you don't have to save money in your utility bills. The reason why typically people want to save money is they don't want to have to pay for the utility company for the next 30 or 40 years.
Right.
But you don't have to save that money if you don't want to. I mean, you can pay the electric company if you want.
Right. Okay. I got you. Yeah,
it's just asking him a consequence question right there.
And
I know that's just a Band-Aid though, Joel. The main problem is why is he canceling and changing? What's the symptom? What are you missing in that conversation that's not making sure they're 100% committed when you walk out that door?
Right. Do you think this would be a bad, the advice my manager said, especially like with elderly people, because they'll talk to another client and then those other people be like, what? You spent like $60,000. What? You know, like they're taking advantage of you. He suggests me asking at the end, so what would you do if like someone came up to you and they're like going to be like, why'd you spend like $60,000? Like, what are you going to say?
I wouldn't say it like that, but I think it's a good idea to help them overcome some objections that could happen. Let's reword that a little bit. So how does your now, do they talk to their family members? Is that usually what it is?
Typically, yeah, like a brother.
So hey, I wanted to ask you before I left, how does your family members feel about you putting solar in the home so you can save the utility cost each month, or you can save more money? So it's just like the partner objection, right? It's the same thing. Right. So you're just pre-framing it to make sure that the objection doesn't happen. Okay. So hey, I was just curious though, how does your family feel about you putting solar into the home so you can save money on your utilities every month?
Right.
And what would they maybe say?
Okay. And then
what would they maybe say?
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, it's not their home, so I'm sure they would, I'm sure they might understand.
What are you going to do though if they come over and they don't know anything about what you're doing, and then they don't want you to put solar in the home, and then you end up paying more money for your electricity every month?
Well, they're not paying the bill for me, so.
Yeah, but what are you going to do if they don't want you to put in solar, and then you have to end up paying more for your electricity?
Well, that's my decision.
It's getting them committed like that.
Yeah, not like that.
If somebody comes and does that, they already know the consequences. If they don't do anything, they're going to end up paying more for their electricity.
Right.
It's like they're paying rent for the rest of their lives.
Right. that makes sense. And I learned that a little bit because it's you feel like you have to go into justification mode whenever someone tries to cancel. Like almost you have to be like, well, don't you remember the benefits? And I kind of did some of that.
Sounds
You
needy.
know, yeah, I know it does. And at that point, it's like
When you sound needy, you're dead.
you're
It's
done.
over.
Yeah, you're
You see what I
done.
mean? When you say, well,
Yeah.
I guess you could, yeah, I mean, I mean, what's holding you back from putting the solar in so you save money on your electricity every month? I mean,
Right.
you can keep paying more for your electricity if you want.
Right. Well, I don't know. A 25-year term just seems like a long time, though.
Well,
It's
are you going to
what's
die in
like-
2 years?
I hope not.
Well, I mean, how many more years are you going to pay your electric bill? 50?
I guess. I don't know. I just
So which is going to save you more money? Putting in solar, saving money each month, and then never having a bill again eventually, or just keep paying the electric bill that goes up 4% every year, every single year for the next 30 or 40 years. I mean, which is more money?
right. Well, that makes sense. And the very last thing is the other thing was they read a bad review about the company, which I know any companies that have some kind of bad review.
Hold on, when you say you read a bad review, what do you mean by that?
Well, they said they had an issue and they felt like they just weren't saving as much.
And
or
how many
something.
bad reviews did you read?
I don't know. I saw a few.
Okay. Now, how many customers do your company have, Joel?
Over 30,000.
So, okay, so let me understand here. So you read 2 bad reviews out of over 30,000 customers. Can I make a suggestion to you?
Yeah.
I'm assuming you understand for a company that has more than 30,000 customers, to only have 2 bad reviews is actually unheard of. I don't know how anybody could do any better. Typically, like if you have a car, let's say your car is a Ford, if you Google Ford, how many bad reviews do you think you have about your car?
True.
I'm not sure we could do any better than 0.00001% bad reviews out of 30,000.
Right. That's good. Now I like
Get
that.
them to think. You have to get them to think
Yeah.
like that.
Okay.
Even the first question. So you read 2 reviews out of over 30,000 customers?
Yeah.
A lot of
I
times when
guess
you
so.
ask that question, like, oh, yeah, that's really good. I don't even have to ask the next question.
Right.
You
No, I like that.
you just got to question their way of thinking. You have to challenge them a little bit by it. That's kind of a consequence question there.
Right. Okay.
Does that
Well,
help?
awesome. Yeah. I'm gonna keep trying to work on the tonality, and I'm starting to get the questions slowly more memorized. I'm getting more confidence with
Yeah,
it.
man, I'm telling you, once
So-
you have the questions memorized, that gives you the right tone and the
Right.
right cadence and the right certainty and confidence when you're dealing with those type of little objections. But when you're kind of have some of them memorized and you don't know what to do if they do this, you're kind of like winging it. All right, Evans, what's going on?
Yeah, so I sell affiliate marketing training for people who are looking to start online business
Okay,
or
just like
mastermind
Shane.
your coaching,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, just like Shane. So my question is, because I've been noticing that many times the people that join the 15-day challenge and go on calls with me, many times they have, I would say, maybe a mindset issue or expectation issue. And then might be for different factors, maybe also the messaging, the marketing, but they have an expectation that they're going to make money first and then maybe make any other investment, right? And from what I've seen other sales guys do, they talk about a lot about mindset on the calls, right?
Let me help you right
And
now. Can I make a suggestion?
yes, please.
John, I'm assuming you understand when you start your own business, it's going to require capital or credit to invest in a business to make money. How many businesses do you know of, business owners started a business with 0 money and somehow made a multiple 6-figure profit their first year? You just got to ask.
Yeah. Is there anything else you think? Because
Bro,
what
I'm telling you, I've been in your industry. I know exactly
Yeah.
what you're talking about. I've sold
Because
exactly.
what happens, and I ask them sometimes, and through the questions that you ask, you see that in their mind they're thinking, okay, what I'll do, I'll try. I finish this challenge. I'll try myself, and when I make money, that's when I will maybe invest into more education.
So wait a minute. How are you going to? How can they actually even do that?
Because
can
they
they
have that
try it out?
expectation, because they're joining this 15-day challenge, but in their mind they have an expectation that that challenge will teach them.
Does it teach them everything?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, so what are some really complicated things that it doesn't teach them?
Like generating traffic, running Facebook ads, and all those things.
So,
Testing audiences.
Evans, tell me this: do you feel comfortable in running Facebook ads and actually managing your pixels to make sure your costs are low?
No, I don't know, but I think I'll figure that out.
When you say figure it out, because that's not in the course, how are you going to figure it out?
I don't know. Maybe I'll look it up on YouTube or something.
Okay. Evans, can I suggest something to you?
Yeah.
Do you think anybody out in the world can show you in hours of videos for free, or would be willing to show you for free, how to manage your own Facebook ads and run your pixels where you're profitable and do that for free on YouTube? Because I've never seen that. So if you don't know how to do that, how are you going to successfully run an affiliate marketing business if you don't even know how to run your pixels?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, if you don't know how to run that, how are you ever going to be profitable? Consequence questions. You're not asking him enough consequence questions to get him to think. You seem perplexed, Evans.
I seem, what can I say? It's because the best way to do that is to have them, because once they've already watched the webinar, it's like they've already made their mind. So it's a longer
because
battle.
You don't know how to resolve their concern. That's up to you, Evans. You have to help them resolve their concern. If you don't know how to ask what I just said, you're going to lose sales for sure. You have to learn those skills. Not everybody's going to be like, Evans, I'm ready to go right after the webinar. Sign me up, send my money in. You have to be able to help them resolve that concern.
Yeah.
John, can I suggest something to you? How many people, I'm assuming you understand, when you start a real business, it's going to require capital or credit to invest in a business to make money. How many business owners do you know that started a business with zero money that made a multiple six-figure profit their first year? You know what they're going to say? I don't know anybody. So if you don't know anybody, how are you going to be able to do that if you don't know and learn the right skills to actually be able to do that? You have to learn how to ask them consequence questions that challenge them, their way of thinking. If you don't, guess how they're going to still think?
Yeah, they're going to try
And
it
they're
on
not
their
gonna
own
get
and
started
not
with
get anything. Yeah.
They're not going to get started with
Because
it.
I had this guy, and that seemed like the perfect call. Literally all the boxes checked. The problem was there. Looking for the solution. Even the consequence was there. But then after he watched the webinar, he was like, "Oh, I don't have the money."
And that's why you have to learn how to resolve their concerns. If you don't learn how to resolve those concerns through those questions I just gave you, you're going to lose sales you could be making, hands down. All right, Pierre, so tell us what you sell.
So I'm on a fitness offer. And what I'm doing is that I just got to go ahead to kind of work with using like NAPQ on some of my calls.
Okay, good.
And he has like a few IP kind of questions, like questions around like comfort eating and like the psychological things. And my thing is
so a couple quick things just before you ask the question, so I understand. So when you say you're selling fitness, give us a little bit more detail. Like, what are you actually selling? Is it a training program for them to lose weight? What problems does that fitness that you're selling solve?
What it does is that it removes a lot of the psychological issues that go along with that. Like I said, comfort eating, things like that. The main result is, like, his IP is sustainability is the big thing. Not
Okay,
just
so
lose the weight
once you
and
lose the
go up.
weight, keeping it off, not like most diets.
Correct.
You lose the weight, you just go back to normal
Correct.
3 months from now.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
so do people respond to ads for that, or how do you get leads?
So the way that he gets is a combination of organic and paid. So
Okay.
there is some Facebook stuff, but there's also like some group stuff. Like most
Okay.
of the people kind of is in the group.
So people come, they're overweight. Are there any other issues that it solves? Are they diabetic? Like, what are their main challenges and problems?
Right. So some of them, they are having like physical pain, like, back pain, knee pain, simple stuff.
Mhm.
And then they're like, overeating or unconscious eating is another one.
Okay.
Another one's like menopause. I'm getting a lot of that lately as well.
Okay.
So those are like some of the core kind of things. Like,
Okay. So those are the problems. We haven't found out what the root cause of those problems yet are. But what's your question?
so my question is, it's like, how do I naturally bring up like more of those IP kind of questions? Like when would be the best time to ask, like,
You would probably ask those in your situation questions. I don't know. Like when you say IP questions.
yeah, so for example, like a great question they ask is, so like when you feeling XYZ, do you usually find yourself like kind of comfort eating, like eating like during evening times? Something like that.
That would probably be more of a situation question. Like, I don't know if I would use that as a situation question. I'd probably want to relanguage those. But your situation questions, you're finding out what their present situation is. So
Okay.
that would be something you're trying to find out, right? So these are just factual based questions that are getting logical based answers in return. There's really not much emotion that's pulled out. That's more in the problem awareness stage and the solution awareness stage. Is that what you're asking?
Correct.
So that question, what is your first situation question you ask?
My first situational question is usually, so just so I can understand where we're starting from, what is your current height and weight? It's the first question.
Okay.
Because usually they're starting out with the lead in of their goal. Like,
Okay.
okay, so great. So where are you currently starting from? Like, what is your current height and weight?
Okay. And I say I'm 5'11", 250 pounds. So you know
Okay.
I'm a little bit obese.
Yeah,
I'm
just a little
not
bit.
250 pounds, but
Yeah, not too bad. Okay, great. So, just out of curiosity, like, how long have you been? Now, what are you currently doing to like kind of lose the weight right now?
okay. See, that's a good situation question, right? Because you're finding out what they're currently doing, which is going to lead into your problem awareness stage, right? So that's smart. I wanted to see what you're doing. Let's say, so just role play with me here. So let's just kind of get into this. So let's start with your first question and we'll just role play from there. Okay.
Yeah. So, no, just out of curiosity, like, just so I can see, where we're starting from. What is your current height and weight right now?
I am 5'9", about 250, 260, give or take a few pounds.
Okay. And what are you currently doing right now to kind of, I guess, lose the weight?
Man, a variety of diets. I've tried the South Beach diet. I go to the gym, try to get on the treadmill to lose calories. There was a diet my wife tried that, she didn't eat for 3 days. That didn't go so well, man. I think I've tried like everything out there.
And I guess like what got you started doing it like that way, with like this collection of like approaches?
Just ads I saw, just trying to figure out something,
Okay. And I guess like what are you currently doing now to kind of lose? Like what are you currently doing now? Like are you on a specific diet or workout program right now?
No, I got off of it a couple months ago. I was on the South Beach diet and it just didn't work.
Okay, so I guess like do you like the process you're using now to kind of lose the weight?
Okay, let's stop there. Okay, so couple of things. How did everybody feel about Pierre's tonality there?
I thought that was pretty good.
Okay, not bad. The last question you asked me was kind of like the first question you asked me.
Yeah.
It seemed a little bit redundant, so you want to be careful there, especially if they're like an A-drive personality. You don't want to ask like this. I know you asked it a little bit differently.
Okay.
But let me help you re-ask that a little bit. So, okay, so what is your height and weight now, just so I understand?
Yeah, so I'm currently like right at 6 feet.
Okay, and what do you weigh?
So I weigh like 245.
Okay, so you're 6 feet, 245. And how long have you had that weight? Is that what you typically weigh, or do you fluctuate?
Yeah, so I'd say I've been kind of like this way for like at least like a year or so or more.
What are you typically though?
So typically I'm like a 220.
Okay,
where I
so
am
you
typically.
gained about 20, 25
Yeah.
pounds or so just in the past
Yes.
12 months. So what have
Yes.
you been doing, I guess, in the last year or so to try to lose the weight?
Not a whole lot. I like been kind of scouring YouTube, kind of getting tips here and there, but
Well, hold on. When you
nothing.
say scouring YouTube, getting tips here and there, that means different things to different people. What do you mean by different tips here and there? What does that mean?
Yeah. So like I've jumped on YouTube and like looked at like other guys my size and like look at what they're doing. It's
Okay.
like one of them was like intermittent fasting, trying to do that, and then
Did you
another
actually
one
do
was like,
that?
yeah, I tried it. I tried it.
Okay. And what else have you done besides intermittent fasting?
Um, because I'm a bit heavier now, I can't do a whole lot of like physical activity. So I've been trying to like walk a little bit more. Like I know there was a recommendation too.
Okay. And anything else besides just walking and intermittent fasting?
I've tried like I've been like adding more water, like drinking more water, like cutting out a lot of the
Oh,
drinks,
okay.
like palm
So
water,
these
yeah.
things that you've tried, do you like what you've been doing to try to lose weight? Let's stop there. So when you say that first problem awareness question, you need to put a lot more emphasis on the word like. You just said, so do you like the processes you've been going through? It's like it's in one ear out the other. It's not you when you use with your tone, guys. I want guys and gals with your tone, you have to like words, there's certain words in those questions you want to emphasize more than others. And you want to pause. So okay, so these things that you've been trying to do from YouTube, do you like what you've been trying? Okay. So I say, do you like, and then there's a verbal pause there. Now, what happens in their mind when I slow down and I say, so do you like what you've been doing? Or I'm not, I just generally said that, but I'm going to be more specific. Okay.
Yeah.
When you have that verbal pause, it forces them on their end to think deeper about that question you just asked. If you don't, and if you say, so do you like the processes you've been doing to try to lose weight? It's more of a knee-jerk thought process and a knee-jerk reaction. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like if I'm walking into American Eagle and my daughter's wanting to buy a pair of jeans, and they come over and they say, how can we help you? We're going to say, oh, we're just looking. It's just a knee-jerk question that requires a knee-jerk reaction answer. So you want to really emphasize the word like in that problem awareness question. And that's for everything that's sold. All of your guys' industries, there's certain words, that's one of them that you really want to emphasize, slow down and verbal pause between that, because it causes the prospect to internalize that question more. And it causes them to think deeper about what you're asking.
Got it.
That makes sense. So your situation questions, I would just kind of, and is that your average client that's never tried any diet that's just got on YouTube?
No, that an average client is like they've tried diets in the past.
Okay, that's what I figured. Yeah, you threw me through a little winger, but that's how I would have done that with it. Do you see how he didn't give me enough information? He's like, yeah, I've just got on YouTube and tried a few tips and things. You have to really find out what that means, because you didn't give me much there. Like, I didn't want to take that bait. I wouldn't have said, so do you like what you've done off YouTube? Because you don't even know what he's done. So notice I was like probing more and clarifying to get more of those details out. And then I asked you that problem awareness question. So if you come up with something like that happens, make sure you do that for sure.
Okay.
Does that help?
So, yes, it does. So with the like the comfort eating and things like that, you said you would ask that in situation awareness instead of problem awareness?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would ask that. That's more of a situation question, because you're finding out what their situation is. Problem awareness is you're finding out, do they like what they've been doing in the past? And then you're finding out the root cause of how the problem started. And then you're also finding out what the problem's doing to them, even emotionally or personally.
So how would you ask that question in situation?
Tell me the question. What's the question? How do you ask it normally?
So the way I normally ask it is they usually tell me like some type of emotion, and I would like, so when you're feeling like frustrated or even down,
have they told you they're feeling frustrated and down in the situation questions?
Well, before this time now, it wasn't like an actual structure. It was kind of like, all over the place. So they used to say something like, I'm feeling down or frustrated. Like, okay, so when you feel frustrated or even like possibly down about the weight, like Do you find yourself
Here's how you
comfort
ask it. Hold on. When you say you feel down and frustrated, what do you mean by that?
Okay.
Because first of all, you have to clarify. You don't know what that means. Now, even if you feel like you know what they mean, because that probably means something different to every single person you're talking to, who do you want for the who do you want to feel the pain of what that means?
The person.
Them. You want them to relive the pain, not just give you a knee-jerk reaction and say, oh, it's causing me to have some depression and, you know, I feel down. Hold on. When you say it's causing you to feel down, what do you mean by that? Oh, I mean, it's causing me to do this. Okay. So when you start feeling that way, what do you typically start doing? That's probably what I would ask there. So you see, instead of you saying like, do you normally do this? And because maybe they say no.
I see.
Okay. You want to say, okay, so when you get to that point where you're feeling down, you're feeling depressed, what do you typically start doing at that point? Okay, you start eating. Okay, and what type of foods do you start eating at that point? So when you eat that food, what is it doing to you emotionally? See how you're digging.
That is good.
Yeah, you see that? See how you're getting them to relive that pain more than just a surface level answer. Now they're starting to relive the pain in their mind, and that triggers urgency in the sale for them to do something now, not say, oh, I want to think it over at the end. See that? Yeah, no problem. And if you need to, you can almost ask that in your problem awareness questions.
Okay.
But if it was me, I'd probably ask that in the situation questions. Now, if they've not said, now let's say I'm in the situation questions and they have not said that they're feeling down or depressed.
Okay.
But when I ask that first problem awareness question, they do.
Okay.
Then I would ask that.
In problem awareness.
It depends on when they bring that up. Now, if they say, let's say you're in the connecting stage because they booked on your calendar and you say, your last connecting question, let's say it was, okay, and do you know what you're looking for? Oh, I need something because I'm feeling down and depressed. You're not going to say that early. You're not going to go through that process. That's too early because you just met them 30 seconds ago. You're then going to come back in the problem awareness stage and say, now a minute ago, you had mentioned that because of this extra 50 pounds you gained in the last couple of years, it's caused you to feel down and depressed. Tell me a little bit more about what you meant by that. Okay. So you're going to save that. You're like putting the bow back in your arrow back in the little quiver there, and you're going to bring it out later because it's too early. There's not enough emotion or trust built in the connecting stage to be able to probe and clarify to bring that out. It needs to be a little bit later in the conversation because it's going to have more emotional power for you. Hey, Shane, how's it going?
It's going good. So I am selling an affiliate marketing program right now. We have 3 different price points. Our high cost is $9,800.
Okay.
And anyone who gets on the phone with us has to have purchased some sort of front end product first.
Okay.
In order to book a call, they go through a whole questionnaire and 3 videos to get on our call.
Okay.
So my question would be, I've been having a lot of struggles getting anyone to close this month. Last month it was great. This month it's been completely dry.
Why is that?
A lot of our calls, unfortunately, these people have gone through every bit of resources possible and just don't have any resources. And then the ones
help me understand. So you sell you teach people how to become affiliate marketers for your own affiliate program or for other programs?
For our affiliate program, but then also just to learn how to do their own digital marketing in the future.
Okay. Is it a 1-call close, 2-call close? What do you do?
We shoot for a 1. I've been doing a lot more in the 2 and a lot of follow-ups, just kind of keeping them engaged.
Okay. What is your question?
So the question would be, how do I get them to commit a little bit stronger at the end? So today I had somebody just ghost me. He's like, oh, I'm committed. I'm going to put a deposit down tomorrow. I have to just move money around.
First of all, I think you just got involved with this in NAPQ 3.0. Have you even tried to write a sales structure yet with us?
I haven't tried writing that. We have our script so far. That was going to be the next question is, should I try to just rewrite my own script?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to convert higher, for sure.
Yeah.
Like I said, we train a lot of people in your space as well. I mean, I've got salespeople that make 50 to 100,000 a month selling exactly what you're selling, just so you know. So we've taken companies from like 0 to like 10, $15 million a month in your space, like affiliate marketing. Affiliate marketing is really easy to sell because they respond because they have two main problems. Let me mute everybody out here. So they have two main problems, Shane. So Shane, go ahead and unmute yourself real quick. All right, perfect. They have two main problems. They respond to the ads because they want to make more money and they want to have more time. So you're selling like an opportunity to them, right? It's an easy sale, but you have to know the right questions to uncover their emotions on not just why they're looking for that, but like what's behind that why. Every salesperson can find out why they have a problem. But most salespeople don't know the right questions to ask to help them find out what's behind the why. That's where emotions and feelings start to come out. Okay. So, I mean, I think your question's kind of generalized if you want to scope it down a little bit more, but you just really need to go in and start writing out your sales structure with connecting questions and situation questions and problem awareness, and get on those role plays every week with our team. I think you're in NEPQ 3.0.
Yep.
So get on those role plays with their team and just role play that out. And they'll be like, you need to change the question here. You need to change this. You need to change that. Because your space is an easy space to sell in for sure. I don't know if that answered your question, but.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like I said, last month, I was slaying last month. I was the top guy for last month. And then this month has just been bone dry. I mean, a lot of people either rescheduling, not showing up for their call.
Well, what do you think's triggering that?
I'm honestly not sure. This is like, to be very honest, my third month in sales in general. So
okay,
it's just,
and that's what's going to, and I want to make sure you guys understand, like I see so many salespeople that have like a great month and then the next month they're down, and then the next month they're good, and then the next month they're great, and then the next month they're down. When we teach you NEPQ, you're there at this level every month. There's no ups and downs because you have a structure. You're like a factory. Okay. People come in, you take them through the sales process. You know what to do, A, B, C, D, all the way to X to get them to persuade themselves. And they're chasing after you rather than you chasing them down. So when you get involved and write out the sales structure and then practice it on the role play calls with my team, you're just consistently going to improve each month, not have a great month, then down the next, have a great month, down the next. You don't want to be there. Hard to make an income there, predictable income.
Yeah.
I give you more, but I need more details of what, I don't know what you're doing on those calls. So it's hard for me to answer your question.
We have a pretty long opening frame, I would say. Our CEO kind of wrote out the script. So we have that, and then we have our heaven and hell sections where the initial question after we get through our frame setup would be, what's going on in your life right now that has you actually wanting to start an online business?
Yeah, it's just a generic surface question.
Would you suggest a better question to kind of open up?
Well, I mean, we could be on here for 17 hours right now if you want to write out your sales structure. So you need to go in and start like working on that. So I don't know what you mean, like beginning frame. Like we're talking about, you want to have your connecting questions. These people book on your calendar, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So they book on your calendar. They obviously have problems. Otherwise they wouldn't be booking on your calendar, right? You have a solution that solves that. So they book on the calendar. You need to start off with your connecting questions. Okay, George, looks like you booked on my calendar today about possibly starting your own business. Now, this first call is, I would say, really more for us to find out more about your background as far as kind of what you've done in the past, and then really what you're looking for in a business to see if we could actually help you. Now, I was curious, when you went through the ad the other day where you saw Shane talk about X and Y and Z, what was it about the ad that attracted your attention? Oh, I like this. I like that. I like this. Okay. And do you know what you're looking for? Well, I want to find a business where I can make more money. Oh, okay. That makes sense. And then what do you do for work now? What do you do for a living? That's your first situation question, because you're finding out what their situation is. So everything I gave you up until that question would be your connecting questions, just giving you a little bit. We train a lot of people in your space, so I know like the back of my hand. But hopefully that helps you with this start there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Like I said, I think that it's just the script we've had as our basic framework, and I appreciate that. I think it'll be a lot more.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. Yeah, and I gave some example scripts back there in the connecting stage, outbound, inbound leads, some different examples. I don't know if it's in your affiliate marketing space, but it's definitely an industry. We're familiar with a lot of industries. We train like hundreds at this point, but we train a lot of people in your space too.
Okay. Now, as far as like you said, going in to do the sales, right now my own sales script, what modules would I go back to kind of really get into?
You'd probably want to go through hours 3 through 11.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're about to add 5 more hours of content. It was already shot here in my office about 2 weeks ago. The editor's editing it now. It'll be uploaded for our NPQ 3.0 members in about 2 more weeks. So there's going to be about 5 more hours of content back there. Plus, Matt and Marco are adding about another 4 hours too. So it'll be up to about 21 hours here in about a month. You guys are going to get too much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. So hours 3 to 11, that'll be my good spot to really start kicking.
Yeah, you want to start in the connecting stage.
Okay.
And then go through all the modules there. Okay. And then work on it with the team on the role play calls. They're really going to help you.
Oh yeah. All right, man. Appreciate it.
All right. I'll come back around to you. That was a good question, man.
So Jeremy, reputation management, and I wanted to kind of explore, instead of going the route of their ideal criteria as far as a system to get more reviews, exploring more in the solution awareness phase about their ideal criteria as far as more customers and revenue. So my question is, like, how would I tie that in better?
Why are you wanting to do that? Just so I understand.
Well, because right now when I do ask, so like, what would be, I guess, your ideal criteria as far as like how many reviews you'd actually like to be getting? And
I wouldn't use that question. No.
Yeah, because before I would get, well, I don't know. I haven't really.
Remember, you're not selling the thing.
I know.
You're selling the results of that thing, right? The reviews, like what results are they going to get from having great reviews compared to hardly having any reviews?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're interested in, right? You're selling the results of that thing.
So how would I tie that in better in the solution phase?
Give me your solution awareness question.
Well, this is what I wrote up now to try to integrate that better. So, okay. So Jeremy, before today, were you out there looking for a way to get more customer reviews? Or I guess, what were you doing as far as trying to get more customers from Google?
And what do they usually say?
You know, half of the time they say, yeah, we used to work with an SEO company. Okay. The other half, no, we haven't done anything. Well, hold on. What prevented you from doing anything in the past?
And they say, well, we just didn't know about it or whatever, blah, 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 blah. Okay.
And sometimes I'm curious if I should challenge them a little bit there when they said, no, I mean, we haven't even thought about it. Would I go into possibly like, well, hold on. I guess, I mean, if there are other roofers that are having success with Google, I guess, what are they doing differently? Or would I go into something like that there?
It just depends on how the conversation's flowing. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. Are you talking, like, when you say other roofers, are you talking to a roofing company now, or you're just randomly saying that?
I'm randomly saying that because generally I help home services businesses.
Oh, okay.
So would I?
If there are other companies that are getting those great reviews, do you see how, because you don't really have any reviews yet, how that might impact the type of customers that are coming in? I might ask it that way. I'd have to think.
And then they would say, yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Well, I mean, just to see if I can help you, Jeremy, like, what would be, I guess, your ideal criteria as far as like quality or quantity of customer coming from your Google page each month?
I don't know if I'd ask that question because I don't know if most of your people would know that. What would they typically say when you ask that?
This is a new question. So like, I'm trying to get them to dial in how many more customers they want. And if
okay. So you haven't used this yet.
Yeah, I haven't used this one yet, because normally I would go into, so are you looking more for an integration, or like what kind of system are you looking to possibly to get more reviews? I usually go into that part, but I'm finding out more and more that.
I think I like this question you just used. Give me that question, not the question, the integration. I don't think that, like I wouldn't know what
ideal criteria as as far as like quality or quantity of customers coming from your Google page each month?
Yeah, why don't we go with that and let's see how that works. We might have to tweak that a little bit. I need to think about that a little bit more.
And then when they say,
that's-
well, I'd want 10 more roofing jobs. That would be great if we could get 10 more roofing jobs. Okay.
And
And
then
is
how much do you get paid on per roofing job, just so I understand?
at least $3,000.
Okay, so about an extra, you're talking about an extra $30,000 a week then in revenue.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so that's about an extra 120,000 a month. So that's about
Okay.
$1.2 million a year. See, when you quantify that to them, then at the end, let's say your services cost $3,000 a month or $5,000 a month to make an extra $1.2 million a year. Do you see how that seems very, very low compared to making an extra 120,000 a month?
I need to write that down because I had something more convoluted and more difficult tying that in.
Yeah, you don't
But-
want to be so
but-
convoluted.
but
Just
then-
straight out. Just say, well, okay, and how much do you get paid per roofing job? Okay, so you get paid about $3,000 per roofing job. So you're wanting an extra 10 roofing jobs per week. So I'm not very smart with math, 3,000 times 10. So that's about an extra 30,000 a week in revenue, about 120,000 a month extra in revenue. So about 1.2 million a year. Is that what you're trying to get to? Okay, so if you keep using the same process you've been using to try to get these customers in, and just be real with me, like how many years would it take you before you're getting up that extra $1.2 million every single year? That might be my next question.
Oh, we'd never be able to do that, at least on Google.
Okay, so did you see what they just said?
Mhm.
The way we're doing it now, there's no way we can get there. So let's say that we're able to come in and through with what we do with our XYZ review service, we're able to get that type of customer base into your store. You being able to get to that extra funds, because you're talking about almost doubling your revenue that you're at now. What would you do with the extra cash flow coming in though? Now, that's a logical based question. They're going to tell you logical based answer. We would pay off some of our debt that the company has. I would be able to do this for my daughter. I would be able to send my son to college or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you say, you being able to do those things, like
Mhm.
besides just thinking about doing them, like you actually being able to do them, what would that do for you personally? Oh my gosh, it would relieve so. And that's where the feelings and the emotion starts to come out. That's where the sale's made.
So you don't think I should go into, because realistically with a service like this, it's not going to like game changer overnight. Like once they're at like 100 reviews, it can really make a difference. But you
Yeah.
don't think I should
But
say that?
they don't know what they don't know. It's not like you're guaranteeing them you're going to make 30,000 a week starting next week.
Okay.
You're not saying that, but they don't know what they don't know. I don't think anybody would expect that. If they ask, just say, here's typically the process it takes for us to help you get to this level.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
And you don't think I need to actually even mention how many reviews, dial in how many reviews they want to get per month? That's not necessary.
You can ask, but I think remember, you're not selling the reviews. You're selling the result of the reviews,
For sure.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you can ask them, but I don't know if necessarily if I'm sitting here as a business owner thinking like, oh, I want 12 reviews a month. No, I want
boring.
extra 100,000 per month in revenue.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so this is Sayed, and I sell life insurance to primarily to seniors.
Okay. So life insurance to seniors. So is it like final expense
Yeah.
insurance or what is it? Okay. Yeah, very familiar with your space. We're trained some companies in there. What is your question, my man?
Yeah, so Jeremy, like I said, I work primarily with seniors,
Okay.
and sometimes people, below that age as well. And one question I have is that quite often I meet with people who already might have term life insurance policy, and they might be like 70 years old or 75 years old.
Mhm.
And even during the problem awareness stage, we discover that, what they don't like about their terminal insurance is that eventually it'll terminate.
Yeah.
At age
Well, what are
80.
the consequences of that? Not just what they don't like, but what are the consequences of that when it happens and then something happens to them after that?
Yeah. So I mean, every now and then I'll get an objection that, look, I mean, this all sounds great, but I mean, right now I already have a term policy which is going to last for another 10 years. And I'll just worry about getting a final expense policy for whole life when I'm 80. I just don't need another bill right now.
Okay,
So,
why do you think they're saying that your policy is just another bill in their mind? What are you missing there in that conversation that's causing them to think that it's just a bill rather than something that's there to solve something for them?
I guess they're, I mean, I've commoditized myself.
Current state, future state. There's no gap. So when there's no gap, because your questions haven't pulled out any gap, any problem, any need, what do they view your price as? Another bill.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Okay, I'm not telling you that's how you overcome it, but there's a reason why they're giving you that objection. Okay, because in your questioning ability, you didn't pull out enough of that gap from where they're at right now, their current situation, their current state, to where they want to be, their objective state. Now, typically with insurance, when we train companies that do a lot of volume in insurance, is we're asking questions in there basically that get them to think about the consequences and their expenses that they're going to have, and how their term policy is probably not going to even cover that, even if they do die with that term policy. Are you actually diving into that and finding out what their actual expenses are?
The way, Jeremy, the way we differentiate ourselves is that, well, I mean, normally we tell them, look, I mean, term policy is great for a certain term, but
that's the problem. You tell them rather than ask them to get them to realize that. And when you tell them that, it just goes in one ear at the other. But keep going.
Yeah, but whole life final expense policies are permanent policies, which will be, you know, in effect today, or even when they're 85, 90 years old.
Sure. Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Sorry.
But you're telling them that. How does that help them by you just telling them that?
It doesn't.
How is there any emotion, any need when you just tell them a fact?
Right.
So when you're asking questions, are you asking them, how much is your mortgage? So what happens tomorrow? Like, who would actually, so let's say it's a husband and wife and they're 70 years old. Okay, so John, help me understand, and I'm not saying this would happen, but it could, right? Because, you know, one thing is certain, two things in life, death and taxes. So let's say that right now you pass away. How much, like, how much is like your mortgage payment that someone would have to pay for, your wife would have to pay for at that point? Okay, it's $1,700. Okay, and then what other expenses do you have on there that somebody would be paying for? When you get them to add that up in their head, and then they realize that if they pass away, let's say in 9 years, even if the term policy is there, and the term policy is only going to cover 40% of that, what do you think that starts to get them to think?
That they might need some extra coverage.
Yeah, because if you can't get them to think that, how on earth would they even know that they need extra coverage? They just feel like, I've got a policy, so it must be good. But do most people in insurance really think through what their actual expenses are and how much they really need from a policy if they die to actually cover all that? I guarantee you 95% don't, because the salespeople don't know how to ask those questions to get them to open up.
Right.
You see, if you're not asking those, you're missing all that.
Right.
Or am I confusing you?
No, it's making a lot of sense what you're saying. And I was wondering, is there a question we can phrase like in this situation, like I guess what'll be a good consequence question where they're not realizing that by the time they turn 80 and their term expires, the term insurance expires, at that point, it's possible that they might not even qualify for a whole life policy.
Yeah. So Amy, what happens though when you go to get another policy at 80, and because of your age and maybe you have some sickness, then they won't even give you a policy? What are you going to do then? Consequence question. Okay. You're not asking them questions that are getting them to think and challenge their way of thinking that's allowing them to stay in status quo. And that's why you're losing some sales you should be making. Especially
right.
Insurance. Insurance is like one of the easiest sales in the world, because you're basically just asking them questions that get them to realize what their actual expenses are. And, oh, by the way, this policy I already have that I thought I had a policy, is only going to pay for 40% of it. So
Mhm.
what is your spouse going to do though if you die? Let's say, God forbid, you die tomorrow, and this policy you have, this term policy, only covers 40%. What is your wife going to have to do to be able to cover the other 60%? She's already 70 years old. Where is she going to go work? Now, when you get him to think that way, let's say if you're talking to a man, what's he going to start to think? I don't want my wife to have to go back to Walmart at 72.
Mhm.
And is that going to move him to move around money to be able to get the extra policy rather than saying, oh, this is just another bill?
It'll move towards the extra policy.
Yeah, he's going to, because he doesn't view it as a bill. He views it as something that's going to solve a problem so his wife doesn't have to go back to work at 72 years old.
Right.
Okay.
Wonderful. Jeremy,
Here's-
is there time for one more question? I was wondering.
Real quick.
The second objection I get every now and then, and this is usually something I get mostly from men, not from women. And it'll be sometimes like a gentleman would be maybe he might be 75 years old or 85 years old. And in that case, because of their age and health, the monthly premium is relatively high. And so it might be like $100 per month for a whole life policy for $10,000. And in that situation, he might say, hey, I mean, this policy is, it's $100 a month. And in like 8.5 years, I will probably be paying the money of the policy. And
You could be, but what happens if you die in 6 months from now? Who's going to be paying for these expenses?
Right. And they say something
What's
like,
the likelihood you're going to live 8.5 years from now when you're 85 right now? You tell me, what's the percentage? Maybe you're going to be 110. I don't know.
yeah, not very high. No. Mortality is lower for men. Yeah.
You just got to ask a consequence question.
Okay. And if they say something like, I mean, I could put that money in the bank and it'll be 10,000 in 10 years. And,
What type of interest rate does your bank give you?
right.
You just ask questions. When you ask those questions, it just makes them realize that, like, oh, it's going to be way cheaper for me to get this policy than to stick it in my bank. That's if I live another 9 years. What if I don't? You have to ask him those questions to get him to question his way of thinking.
Okay.
That's it, man.
Yeah, so I have my question. It's related and kind of just by seeing you talk up to now, I can see like a pattern, but I really want to hear your take on this because on one of the role playing calls, Rhodes, he said something that caught my attention, like was very interesting. He said that he starts the call more lightly with the person. Like he goes, he smiles, or something like that. It's more light, but as he gets to the end, he kind of lets the call get a more serious tone, so the prospect
100%.
can sense that tension.
Why do you think he does that?
Like, because
Why would you want to
to the consequence?
Why would you want to start light in the beginning of the conversation, but towards the end, make it where that call becomes much more serious and where there's much more tension from where they are at now compared to where they want to be? What's the psychology?
I think in the beginning to have, I guess, a bit more rapport, and at the end for them to really feel the consequence, I guess.
Yeah, it's to really connect.
decide to change.
It's to connect in the beginning. Okay. It's not talking about the weather or how are you or who won the game last night. That doesn't connect you at all. Okay. But it's being light, a little bit lighthearted in the very beginning, but towards the end, when they've revealed from your questioning what their problems are, the root cause of the problem, not just what the problem is. Every salesperson, everybody on here, you guys can find out the problems of your prospects. That is not hard. My 2-year-old, I could probably teach her how to do that. Okay. But it's finding what separates the greatest salespeople from just average is them being able to find out what the root cause of the problem is. How did the problem occur? And then to go a next level up, what is the problem doing to them personally? Problem, root cause, what's it doing to them? Once you're able to help them see that, you actually help them see other problems they have in their mind that they didn't even really think they had. Okay? Does that make sense, Evans? So
Yeah, it does.
towards the end of the conversation, it becomes more serious because they have to make a decision. Now, it depends on what you sell. If you're in a B2C thing, like I know you are, you're selling a 1 or 2 call close. If you're more in B2B complex selling environment, it could be a 3, 4, 6 month sales environment, depending on what industry you're in. But still, even at the end of a B2B conversation, that's going to go to like a next step demo or meet the board or whatever, it's still going to start getting to a serious tone at the end for them to make a smaller commitment to move to the next step, which eventually gets them to the large commitment of making the purchase. Now in B2C with what you sell, towards the end of that first or second call, you're getting to a point where they have to decide, are they going to stay in status quo and the problem doesn't get solved? And what are the consequences? How bad is it going to get? Or do they want to find the funding to solve the problem to get them where they want to be? So that's where we create tension in their mind, where they're like, I can't stay in the status quo. When they have tension where they're like, I can't stay in status quo anymore, it's far more risky for me to stay in status quo and do nothing than it is to find the funds and be able to pay this person to solve this problem. Once you get him to that, selling becomes really easy. But that's what we've taught Road how to do. That's why he's a baller. He makes $35,000 a month in commissions or whatever he makes now, okay? Because starts off the conversations light, and then towards the end, it gets very serious because of that tension there. Is that, I don't know if that was your question, but that was my
That's my question, because in the company where I am, at least one of the feedback that I got from my manager was that I needed to smile more or like connect more with the members. And
Yeah.
there's a big culture or focus on that, where the call is really there to connect. So
yeah. So in the beginning, you want to connect, right?
So that was my question. So
you can smile, guys. You can have a smile on your face, but don't be over enthusiastic. We're like, hey, I'm so excited you're here. I'm so excited. Our service is just the best service and blah, 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 blah. That's not going to make you any sales. That's just going to trigger sales resistance. But can you be warm and approachable? Well, yeah, of course. Why wouldn't you want to be? You don't want to be mean. But in the heart of the conversation, you are going to ask questions that help them challenge their way of thinking that's allowed their situation to keep happening. Because when you do that, they feel your expertise. Okay. Salespeople don't challenge their prospects. They just go along with whatever they say, right? There's no expertise there. That's why they push you off to the side and they commoditize you. Experts or trusted authorities would never do that because they're the trusted authority in that field. That's what I'm teaching you how to be.
And one quick question just before we finish.
I love how you guys do that. I've got a question, and then at the end you're like, oh, one quick question. It's okay. Go ahead.
So I'm not sure if it really matters, but before you asking the consequence question, right? So you're in the solution. You're essentially asking, okay, what would making that money allow you to do, right? They say, I'll do this and that. Then you say, what would that mean to you personally? And then so they are rising in emotional, right? Emotionally, they're rising to the positive, right? But sometimes when you ask, it kind of flips to the other side where they say, okay, I would have much less stress. And if you prove that, oh yeah, I'm having a lot of stress, so they go down again. So before asking the consequence question, what is ideal? Where is ideal for them to be? Up, positive and emotional, or negative?
It just depends there. So you have to realize, and with what you sell, it's a little bit different. There's two types of people. People who have a lot of money, more of their pain is they're wanting more pleasure, right? So they're focused more on pleasure. More, let's say they're already making $15,000 a month with what you sell, right? Because let's say that they're a business owner, because you sell like how to become an affiliate marketer, right? So you sell them
how to start from scratch,
how to start from scratch, build an affiliate marketing business. So the two problems you solve is lack of time, lack of money. Well, let's say the person you're talking to already has a bunch of money. Let's say they make $500,000 a year as a business owner. Okay. What are they going to more associate themselves with? They're wanting to increase their pleasure, whereas somebody that makes $50,000 a year or $40,000 a year is wanting to move more away from the pain of not having any money. Okay. So it depends on where they're at financially, and it depends on what you sell. So don't everybody take this to heart with what your industry is, because it could be a little bit different for your space. I'm just giving Evans an example there. Okay. So what I want to do is, let's say that the first solution awareness question, I might say, okay, so with what you sell, because we train a lot of companies in your space as well, I might say, okay, so tell me about the income. You mentioned you wanted to make more money, blah, 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 blah. What would be your ideal income annually, all that stuff that I've already talked to you about on some of these other calls. And they say, oh, I want to make 200,000 a year. Okay, so you being able to do that, what would you do with the extra money coming in? I mean, you're talking about tripling your income. What would you do with the extra money coming in? Oh, I'd pay off debt. I'd buy a house. I'd buy my girlfriend a ring. I don't know, whatever. Those are all logical answers. Then you ask, okay, but you being able to do that, what would that do for you personally? Oh my gosh, it would relieve so much stress and it would do this. Hold on. What do you mean by stress? Oh my gosh, the last year I've just had stress. I didn't think I could get married, blah, 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 whatever that is. No, now they're down. Then the next question, well, how would it be different though? Like you being able to make that money, do those things with your fiance. How would your life be different than it is now? Oh my gosh, it would be so, and they're coming back up.
Yep.
Okay. Then I'm going to ask them the consequence question that basically gets them to tell me why they have to change now. Okay. But don't worry about it if they're still on a downer at the end rather than up. Sometimes it's just going to happen and that's okay.
Hey, Jeremy, I sell Amazon FBA. So just
okay. So you sell Amazon training, right? So teach people how to start an Amazon business.
Correct.
Kind of similar to Evan's, a little bit different, but go ahead. What's your question?
Correct. And my question actually piggybacks a little bit on Evan's. So when you challenge your prospect, kind of how do you do that without coming across combative? Of course.
Give me an example.
I'm sorry?
Give me an example.
Let's see here. So I would just say, like what the prospect would say, or like what I would say.
Anything. Just give me an example. I don't know. I mean, depending on the conversation, I could give you an answer that doesn't really help you.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So like similar to like Evan's, like, oh man, I'm kind of fine like where I'm at right now, as far as like I could build the business later. It's not really a big deal right now.
Okay, so if you're getting that with what you're selling, then there's something voraciously wrong that you're doing in the conversation, because these people are booked on your calendar, inbound leads.
Yeah.
So they've raised their hand saying, help me, I have a problem. Nobody that's an inbound lead, especially with what you sell, because you solve lack of time, lack of money, whatever, say that, unless there's something you're triggering there. So where in the conversation do they say that to you?
I would say towards the, like right after I pitch them, or more.
That's the problem. You shouldn't be pitching them. I don't know what you mean by pitching them.
Or given the pillars.
Okay. So in the presentation is what you're talking about.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Don't use the word pitch on my calls, man. Come through Zoom and slap you in the face. Okay. So in the presentation, they're giving you pushback. Now, why is that pushback coming in the presentation? Why do you think? In your mind, tell me.
I felt like I didn't dig deep enough in the engagement phase.
Yeah. The sale is made in the problem awareness and solution awareness phase. 90% of the sales is right there. That's the heart of the discovery process, where you're finding out along with them what their real problems are, what are the root causes, and then how are the problems affecting them. If you can't help them see that they have those problems, then of course, what are they going to say after you go through the presentation, go through the pillars and bring up the price? They're going to say exactly that. Okay. Now, if they do come back and say, well, I don't know, this sounds really good. I guess I just don't know. Maybe I should just stay where I'm at. Well, I guess you could.
Gotcha.
And I just sat there for a second, but help me understand. So you're wanting to get up to 250,000 a year. So you'd mentioned you can quit your job and stop commuting back and forth an hour each way. So how are you going to do that if you don't get funding together to start the business and you just stay in your job?
Yeah. And yeah, that's definitely the answer I was kind of looking for, just because like Like when I dig,
Now, when I ask him that question, what's he going to say?
yeah,
Well, I can't do that. Well, do you want to stay there doing that, or do you want to change your situation? Has no impact on me.
right. Yeah, I think my problem is that I have to get the cojones to ask those questions. That's what it is.
Yeah, we'll start bucking up, because if you can't help them get out of status quo, whose fault is it?
Yeah, that's my fault.
Yeah. And if they don't get out of status quo, does their problem ever get solved?
Nope.
And whose responsibility was that?
Mine.
And who's impacted because you couldn't help them see what their problems were?
Him
They-
or the prospect. Yeah.
They are. The prospect's impacted because now he doesn't make the money he wants. He doesn't have the time with his family that he said he wanted, and nothing ever changes for him simply because you didn't have the cojones to ask him the questions to help him see that. So it's your
Right.
fault. That's how I take every sales call. When I was a full-time sales professional like you guys, that's how I looked at every prospect. There's something I did wrong in that conversation where it allowed that prospect to feel that staying in the status quo, doing nothing, was somehow better than finding funding to solve the problem. And I'm like, what did I do wrong that I couldn't allow him to see that? That's my fault. That could affect him and his family for generations to come.
Right.
That's some serious stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy.
Pretty heavy. So get on it. Start getting your cojones up to start asking those questions, man. I promise you, once they pay and your product or service solves their problems, well, they're going to be pretty happy. But they're not going to be happy if they don't do anything.
Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, Evans.
Yeah, so I sell digital marketing training, mastermind, and also coaching programs.
Okay.
People are going through a 15-day challenge. They pay $7. They go through the challenge, and they have a few calls with me, intro call, discovery call. Then they watch a VSL, and then we have a closing call. So a lot of the people that are going through the process, many of them, once we get on the other call, they say things like, oh, I want to try on my own, or I want to finish the challenge the rest of the days and then decide if I would like to.
Okay, so wait a minute. You have a discovery call and then send them to a webinar that explains what you do, right? And the investment, and then you have a follow-up call. Is that what you do?
Yes, exactly. So again, they join a 7-day challenge that says, we're going to help you build the foundation to start an online business, right? Or an affiliate marketing business.
Yeah.
So they have 15 days of lessons, right?
Okay, so
And
you're saying, how do you resolve the concern when they come back and say, well, I think I'm just going to try to figure this out on my own?
Yeah, or they say, I want to finish the challenge and then decide. When
Okay,
they have
so there's two different things there. So let me address the second thing first. The reason why they're saying, I want to finish the challenge and then decide is because of, why do you think that is?
I honestly don't know. I mean, it sounds like the gap is not big enough, I guess.
You haven't helped them see the problems they have. What are their main problems? They want to make more money and they want to have more time with their family. That's why they respond. You're selling a business opportunity, how to become an affiliate marketer. The only reason somebody would ever get an objection at the end is like, well, I just kind of want to finish the challenge and see if it's something I want to do, is because you didn't pull enough emotion out from your questions when you had that discovery call. That's the only reason why, because they responded because of why? Lack of time.
They have a problem.
Money, right? They have major problems. So that's the reason why. So we'd have to know more about what you didn't do in that discovery call that triggered them to say, well, I think I just want to do the challenge and see if I want to do it there. Well, you can. I mean, what are you going to do if nothing changes though? Like if you just stay in the job you have now another 5 or 10 years? Consequence question. Okay. But I'm just telling you, you're triggering that concern. That's why they had that concern. That's the first question. Now to go back to the other question about them asking like, well, I just think I'd want to do it on my own. Yeah, you could. Now tell me, do you feel comfortable in, and you're going to repeat back 4 or 5 things that are extremely complicated in affiliate marketing. What would be 2 of those things that your program teaches that There's no way
I
they
think
can.
mainly Facebook ads, like split testing and optimizing and using pixels and all of those things.
Okay. And I'm going to help you. I'm going to pull up a document that I wrote for another company. And I want you to, and I'm going to role play with you on this. And I want you to see the difference in what I'm going to show you how to do. Okay. So just give me 1 second. I think this will actually work really good for you. Okay. You'll like this. Okay. So you see this. So in this program, they sell like e-commerce training. Okay. So there are a lot of concerns they get because they don't know what they're doing, pull out enough emotion. They'll be like, the customer will be like, oh, I think I just want to try to figure it out myself. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, would you feel comfortable do you feel comfortable in knowing how to create like your view content, your initiate checkout, your ad cart, and your purchase audiences? No, what's that? Okay. Well, I mean, do you feel like you know how to create your own customized audiences and determines which pixels are working best? And then do you feel like you know how to do lookalike targeting after that? No, I don't think I could do that. Well, I mean, so let me make sure I understand. Do you know how to do lookalike audiences from like a 1 to 10% for all your metrics? So they basically list 2 or 3 or 4 things and ask them, so do you feel comfortable? And let me just I'll give you even some easier stuff right here. Okay.
And would you recommend going through like sharing the screen, or like working through the program, or not necessarily?
You can. If you have a document like this that kind of goes over all of this, you can definitely do that. So you just want to go over 3 or 4 things that are very complicated. Okay. So, I mean, okay, yeah, that's fine, John. I mean, maybe you can figure it out. I mean, do you feel comfortable? I mean, do you feel like you know how to determine how to increase like your average order value of like your current sales to like doubling your AOV? Or do you feel like once you have a winning product, you know how to scale that to like $1,000 per day in sales mark to begin the process of scaling? So you basically list 3 or 4 or 5 things and then just say, do you feel like you know how to do all that? Now, what do you think they're going to say when I ask that?
No.
Okay.
They say no.
So Amy, if you don't know how to do any of that, how are you actually going to start an online business and actually make profits from it if you don't know how to do it? See how that works?
Yeah, I've actually done something similar, but the person just got like really defensive. Like, oh no, I don't have the money, something like that. Like,
okay, and then that's another.
Like I'm pushing, like I'm really pushing. But she was.
But it's how you're asking it. Okay, so that's a different objection. A money objection is not, I want to do it on my own. Okay, so you start there. So yeah, that's not a problem. Tell me, I mean, do you feel like you know how to create like custom audiences? I mean, do you feel like you know how to optimize your pixel and then create customized audiences and determine which pixels are working the best so you can do lookalike targeting? Do you know how to do all of that? No, I don't know how to do that. So if you don't know how to do that and you don't learn and go through the training where we set that up with you, how are you going to make profits in your own business? Mm-hmm. Now, if they then come back and say, well, yeah, I don't know, I just don't have the money. No, that's a different concern. You go resolve that. But at least you've resolved this concern.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to everybody? Now, you can do that with what you sell. There are certain industries where you're selling something different. That's not going to make any sense. But when you're teaching them how to become an affiliate marketer and there's all these technical things and Facebook ads that they have to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like if you sell for an agency and somebody's like, oh, I just going to figure it out on my own, or how to do leads on my own. If you sell lead generation, all you do is ask like, yeah, no problem. I mean, do you feel like you know how to, and you repeat back 4 or 5, like really, really complicated things where they're like, no, there's no way I could do that. So if you don't know how to do that, or let's say you don't even know how to do half of that, how would you be able to ever become profitable in a business so you can leave your job and make more money for your family? Because that's what you're offering, right? Mm-hmm. And then that gets them to say, because if money's not an objection, that gets them to say, there's no way I could do that. Well, you don't have to do that. I mean, you can try to figure it out, but if you try to figure it out just by watching free YouTube videos, and then you miss even 3 out of those 5 things, how much money do you think you would lose in your business? And that gets them to think what? that is far more riskier for them not to pay and stay in their status quo and trying to figure it out compared to getting the funding and you actually set it up with them to make sure they're successful, which is more risky.
Yeah,
See,
definitely.
selling is all about helping your prospect feel that it's far more riskier to do nothing and stay in the status quo than it is to actually find the funds for what you're offering to get them what they said they wanted. Do you see the difference? That's all selling is. Which is more risky, right?
Yeah.
So if you sold insurance, which is more risky? Doing nothing, having a small policy, and then you pass away, and then your wife is stuck having to pay the mortgage bill, the kids' colleges, and all this stuff, and has to get 3 jobs, or just paying a little bit of extra money per month, having a policy there. So when that happens, she doesn't have to do any of that, which is more risky. It doesn't matter the industry. It's the same thing.
And for the people that say, I want to finish the challenge first and then I'll decide, wow, how would you handle that?
That's just you didn't pull out any emotion in there. I'm just telling you, like, you didn't.
Yeah, because sometimes it's I feel, because I go through the call and I dig deep. They tell me, oh, I'm tired of this, I'm frustrated, blah 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 blah. Like, I feel like I did everything on that call, but then on the next call they say things like that.
How many people say that to you? Out of 10, how many people say that to you?
Maybe 6. I don't know.
You're missing something, dude. I'm just telling you, if you're getting 60% of your leads that book in because they want to make more money, they want to have more time, and then at the end they're like, well, no, I think I'll just take the challenge and see if I want to do it. That means you've built no urgency for them to take action. Do you see how that works? Like, if it was 1 out of 10, I would say you're good, but 6 out of 10 tells me, because I know your industry like the back of my hand. I train tons of companies in your space. I even sold in your space for a long time. Okay. So you're not building enough urgency with your questions. You're not getting them to see why it's so important for them to change your situation now. They can't say when you ask them, okay, so why is this so important to you now? And they're like, oh, I've got to do something now because of X and Y and Z. Do you think they're then going to come back and say, no, I don't think I'm going to do anything?
They do. I have one guy, he was saying that.
Evan, I promise you, brother, there's something you're missing.
Yeah.
Do you really think that if they say they've got all these problems and they're like, I have to do this now, I've got to change my situation, that 7 minutes later, they're going to be like, no, I think I'm just going to stay where I'm at and just take the challenge and see if it's something I want to do? How could they do that when they just told themselves why they have to do it now? You tell me.
Maybe because I really don't know. And do you think the transition, because sometimes it also happens, I've been testing with a few transitions, because I go through that whole process, right, up until the consequence. It's like I have a lot of information from them, but how do I transition for them to the next call? Or what would be the best? Make an analogy, or I don't know, or just open the next day.
I'm not sure I understand. So you do the discovery call, and then you're inviting to the webinar for them to find out the details. Then you have a follow-up call, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, because based on what you've told me, do you have your transition stuff written down? Based on what you've told me, what we're doing might actually work for you, because you're saying that you want to find a business where you can make more money. You repeat back what they said, what they want. And right now you've got this job, but like you said, they're not paying you very much money. You repeat back the logical problem they said. And because of that, it's causing you to feel, I think you'd mentioned a little bit of stress sometimes. Oh my gosh, you have no idea. Okay, so this is what I do, and this is how to work for you. So really the next step would be, if is it appropriate, is and you tell them what the next step is. How are you doing the transition now?
I'm basically saying something like that, like
that's what you're doing wrong. You're saying something like that. Something like that doesn't mean you're doing it right. You need to.
Yeah, exactly. So the transition is where I'm
based on
winging the most.
What we're doing might actually work for you, because you know how you said, and you repeat back the logical problem, or the logical thing they want. What would that be? Probably they want to make more money, right? Because you know,
more
you said
money or more time. Yeah.
find a business where you can make more money. And right now, and you repeat back the logical problem. And right now you've got this job, but they're not paying you very much money. And because of that, it's caused you to feel, and then you repeat back their emotion. I think you mentioned a little bit of stress sometimes. Oh my gosh, you have no idea the stress. Well, okay. So this is what I do, and this is basically how to work for you, blah, 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 blah. Really, the next step would be, if it's appropriate, is we would have you go through this, what is it, a 45-minute video? What is it?
It's a 2-hour masterclass where it's a continuation of the challenge, and also at the end of that day, they're made an offer.
So really the next step is have you watch the XYZ video where John goes over how the business model works, how blah, 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 whatever the benefits are. Would that be appropriate? Yes. And then you invite them to that, and then you set up a time for the next call the following day.
Would you pre-frame somehow the offer? You're going to see an offer, 3 different options, or you wouldn't do that?
No. Offer sounds like a sales pitch. So on that, so when we talk, and now they'll go over, so they're going to go over how the business model works, how you make profits from running the business with us, and then how we pay you. And they're also going to go over like what type of funding, there'll be different options that you'll need to put into the business if you want to make those type of profits you were talking to me about. And when we talk tomorrow, I'll go through any questions that you have. And then if the business fits into what you're looking for, I'll need to find out like what type of funding, does this person have to fund the business, or do we have to help them through our lenders get funding? That way they can make profits within, I don't know what time you tell them, 30 days, 60 days. I have no idea.
So that's another thing. We don't guarantee, we don't promise any results. And the way the company structures it is it focus on helping them develop skills and not selling it as a biz op. That's kind of the
sure. No, I get it. But I'm not saying you're guaranteeing them. I'm just saying that way, they have to see so that they can what? There has to be a benefit there. They're responding because they want to make more money and have more time with their family. Okay, exactly. Funding so that you can, start making more money for you and your family. You have to associate the money with them making more money for them.
Okay.
Does that make sense? If you're not doing that, you're losing a ton of people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think that's because I've been going through the entire process, but in the transition, I'm kind of winging it. So I feel a bit lost there.
What happens when you wing part of the sales process? It can unravel very quickly, right? So you got to write down your transition. If you go back, just copy word for word what I just said on the transition piece. Because I write scripts for your industry all the time, for sure.
Come on, Jeremy. You're a legend, man. I appreciate it. You don't get enough
Thanks
accolades. I've been in sales for over a decade. Mainly the old sales model. So I guess what I'm struggling with now is just listening to Evans, I think is pretty much exactly what I need to hear anyway.
What do you sell, Mike?
So business opportunity program, similar, but so digital marketing service more on the B2B space. So more like 2,500 to 15 grand is the offer itself.
Okay. You're selling to business owners.
Or people that want to be business owners. Even from scratch.
What are you actually selling to the business owners? Digital marketing means a lot of different things to different people.
So we call it the done for you agency. So we'll help them, build a team of experts to do the work, lead generation, and then give them a closer. So it's like the whole.
So they're looking to start their own agency. Is that what they're doing?
Or
okay,
scale
so you're selling like a done for you agency or done with you agency, or if you already have an agency, we're going to teach you how to scale it. Okay. Yeah. That's easy stuff. Here's what you want to do. Let me caution all of you. When you first get into NEPQ, if you try to just write up a script real quick and just completely switch over without knowing what to do, what do you think is going to happen to your sales that first couple weeks to a month?
Drop.
They're going to go down because you don't know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. You're not certain, right? So you have to write out the sales structure. And if you're not in our Inner Circle program, I know like Gina is, so we're working on hers right now, okay? But if you're not in our Inner Circle program where we do that service, where we tie in NEPQ to what you sell, you have to do that on your own by going through the modules, by being on these weekly sales training calls. If you're an NEPQ 3.0, you're going to get a lot more help because you're on the role play. So you're hearing role plays, and that's really important, the tonality. And you've got to write out that sales structure and really practice it before you just switch over. Okay. Because if you don't, you just kind of wing it. Like Evans was saying, he just kind of wings certain parts of it. Sometimes your sales are going to flop because you don't know what you're doing. Now, in the meantime, you can integrate a few questions here and there. You know, if they say something, you're like, well, what do you mean by that? Clarifying question or in probing. But don't make a full, 180 switch without having everything written out, really practicing and knowing what you're doing where it sounds natural. That takes a little bit of time. It's not going to happen in the first week or 2 weeks. Okay?
Yeah, because I've been in 3 weeks, went through the whole program, but it's still a new paradigm shift on mentality for sure. So changing from sales pressure to neutrality, I feel like people are just walking all over me like, Mike, that sounds great. I absolutely want to do it, but I'm going to wait.
Because you don't know how to control the conversation with your questions. Questions control the conversation. Neutrality controls the conversation because it doesn't trigger sales resistance, but you have to know how to step in. You can't just let them walk all over it. When I made almost $3 million a year as a salesperson, straight commissions, do you think I controlled the conversation?
Sure.
Do you think they just walked over me like, hey, Mike, Jeremy, it sounds really good. I'll get back to you in a couple months. No, because my questions controlled that conversation without them realizing that. And that takes a while to develop. Like you're coming from like, let's say if you learn how to sell from like Cardone or Jordan Belfort, like, which is completely like 1960s, 70s, 80s way of thinking, wham them, sell the opportunity, whatever you take, like throw them in, do you want it on Wednesday or Thursday? That typically triggers sales resistance. And then you have to, handle 65 objections. And then, you're beating your head against the wall and people cancel a couple of days. Okay. So if you're coming from that way of thinking over to what we're doing, it's going to take some time for you to understand that when you're asking, when your words are more neutral, it causes the prospect to open up, but you have to know how to interject if they start waffling. You can't just let them waffle for 10 minutes. Okay. You have to know when to interject. Oh yeah. We'll get to that in a second, but I wanted to know, and then boom, next question. Okay. You've got to be able to take control, but you can't take control in the beginning because you don't know what questions you're even asking. That makes sense. I don't even know your question.
Well, I mean, it's like I was saying, just listening to Evans, it pretty much answers the original question, but it's more of switching from sales pressure to this new NEPQ model and making people commit and consequence. I think I just need to go through the training. And
now, are you an NEPQ 2.0 or 3.0?
2.0. I just got the basic.
Okay. I wish you could have gotten to 3.0 because that's where you have all the role playing calls every week with my team where they practice that with you and all the tonality. That really sucks out your learning curve because you hear other people do it in practice. Like I think Randy, you're in that, right? What is that doing for you? The role plays.
Yeah, it's been
2 Randys. Go ahead, Randy Bryan.
Yeah, we got 2 of us in there. Yeah, but it's been really good. Yeah, the tonality. I still like what Mike was saying. I still have to master my script, but with the feedback I've got from like the guys, I feel like I'm on the right track with the role play.
Yeah. My team, we have certified sales trainers in there, Mike. So I don't know whoever maybe you met with Marco or George or Jeff or somebody in our team to get into 2.0. Try to get into 3.0 if you can, because that's where we have like 6 role playing calls every week that you get on live or recorded. And that's where you really get feedback and learn. That's going to soak up your learning curve big time for sure. Because coming from that way of thinking over to here, so there's you have to realize when we first start talking to a prospect, whether it's a booked inbound lead or an outbound lead or a cold call or door to door or B2B or B2C, doesn't matter in any situation. Your prospects within the first 10 to 15 seconds are looking for social cues from you based on your tonality and what you are saying and or asking that triggers their brain to react one of 2 ways. If you are assumptive and really salesy, what do you think it triggers their brain to do? Throw up the wall, right? Resistance automatically, like they're guarded. They don't want to open up, okay? But if you know how to if you know how to ask the right questions in that first part of that conversation, it triggers the prospect's mind to become so curious enough that they feel like they have to engage, otherwise they're missing out on something that's important, okay? That's what NEPQ does, neuro emotional persuasion questions, right? So you just have to keep going through the course. Try to get into 3.0 when you can, Mike, to get on all those role-playing calls, because that's really going to give you a boost over trying to figure it out on your own, for sure. Okay. Plus, in the new course, I just added 5 more hours of content to the 3.0 course. There's some really good golden nuggets. Now it's being edited right now. It won't be back there for those members for about 2 to 3 weeks. Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Stuff. Anyway, and be on this call too, because this call, you're going to learn some information as well, but keep going through the course, write out your sales structure, and you really have to practice that and role play it. And that's where you get it down. And that's where you get really, really good. But it takes a while. I mean, these learning advanced sales skills is like learning like advanced e-commerce skills to have like a big e-commerce store. It's not something you're going to master in 2 weeks or a week and a half. Like one of my top students ever, Marco Cortese, his sales dipped for like the first month and a half, 2 months, because he didn't know what he was doing. And then we finally got it fixed. And now, I mean, the dude, sells over $1 million a month in volume. When he sold the old way, he was doing like 150,000 a month in volume. So it's a bit of a difference. Okay. All right. But it takes practice. Okay. Let's go to the next. Who's got the next question for me? Mike, that was a good question. I'm glad we brought that up to everybody.
Thank you.
Hey guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're loud and clear.
Perfect. Thank you. So I just had this call earlier this morning, and on her application, it didn't look really good, bad marriage, lots of fear, and all this kind of stuff. So I decided to qualify and see like where she was at. So I asked her the question.
Okay, hold on. When you say bad marriage and a fear, how does that say somebody is a bad lead just because they have a bad marriage and fear? Coaching, right?
Yeah. So she said home life is chaotic. She put money as a challenge as well. So that's why I kind of like decided to say, hey, suppose what we do could actually help you. Not sure if we can yet, but like, what type of funding do you have? Or actually, no, what I actually said was most people don't do the program because they say they either don't have the time, they don't have the energy, or they don't have the money. Like, are those like possible reasons why you might not do something like this at this point in your life? And she's like, nope, nothing at all.
How soon in the conversation did you say that?
Probably around like minute 3 to 5.
Can I help you rephrase that?
Sure.
Because you'll lose some people if you say it that way.
Sure.
Now, it didn't sound like you lost her, but some people, you'll lose them. So you want them to start thinking results-based thinking rather than cost-based thinking. So what you don't want to do is say most people who don't start the program is because of these reasons, because then they're going to have that doubt. Well, maybe other people aren't starting it and maybe I shouldn't either. You don't want to put that doubt in their mind.
I see.
So I'm not saying what you did is bad. It just can be improved. So what I would do is I would just, at that point, if like they're giving you things in the conversation that's telling you that they might not have the funds for what you're selling, you want to qualify them so you don't waste your time.
Absolutely.
Okay, because you sell high ticket. So I would say now, Deborah, I'm assuming, Deborah, I want to make sure I can actually help you here. So start off with that. I want to make sure I can actually help you here.
I actually said that.
Good. I'm assuming you understand when you start in a training program to make sure that you, and repeat back what she wanted. What did she want?
To fix her energy problems and cognitive issues.
Okay. Now, Amy, I'm assuming you understand when you look at getting involved in a training program to make sure it fixes your energy and your cognitive problems. I don't know if I would say cognitive problems. There's probably another word for that. I'm assuming you understand it's going to require capital or funds to put into that to actually solve that. Now, with your situation from what you wrote, where your money was a challenge, home was kind of chaotic, how much funding do you have to put into like a training program to make sure you actually solve that? Okay, that's how I would ask that question. Okay, so I'm asking them how much money or how much capital do they have to put into a training program to make sure that you can actually, and I repeat back the problems they have.
Yeah.
So that you can actually solve the cognitive blah, 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 or whatever. Okay, because you're tying in the money to what?
to their outcome that they
Because
want.
their outcome they want. Okay, that gets them to start thinking results-based thinking rather than cost-based thinking. Okay.
Sure.
Now,
Sure.
if she comes, if she comes back and says, well, how much money do I need? You can say, all right, with this type of program, you're going to need around, whatever, what is it, 5 or 6 grand for what you sell?
That's right. Yeah.
You're going to need around 5,000 to put in to make sure that we can actually solve that for you. Is that something you can come up with if it fits into what you're looking for? The magical word is if it fits into what you're looking for.
I see.
Okay. Not something, is that something you have? Because that means they have it right now. Is that something you can come up with? Means they can possibly go out and get the funding if they don't have it.
Yes.
Does that help?
Yes. So we went through with the whole call.
Okay.
We got to the end. She liked our solution for what she wanted.
Yeah.
But then she started getting cold feet
okay, so when you say cold feet, where did that happen, and what did you say right before that possibly, I'm not saying it did, but possibly could have triggered her to feel that way?
I'm not really sure. She went ahead and went through financing application with me and everything.
Okay.
But then like at the end, she's like, I just need 24 hours to think about this. I got to talk to my girlfriend who's in the health field. I got to do some research. She started throwing up all the objections.
There was something in there though that triggered that, because she wouldn't be ready to go fill out the application. What happened there that triggered? Did you help her resolve those fears on the call?
I really tried to, meaning like,
yeah, like she said she had fear, right? So if we can't help them resolve the fear in the call, sometimes people will back out because that fear comes back.
Absolutely.
Right? So where did she bring up the fear, and how did you try to resolve it? That's what I'm asking.
She brought it up at the end as well, like when she said, oh, well, it is a lot of money. And I just have to take a look at like my bank cards to see if I even have enough or something like that.
Yeah, that's not a problem. But what are you going to do though if you go through your bank cards and you don't have enough money to invest in the program? Like, how would you actually? And see, I don't like regain your energy. That just sounds too generic to me. It's like, what is her core problem? It's not just energy. What is the lack of energy causing her? It sounds too generic. When I say lack of energy, what does that mean?
Like she actually wrote that down here. So that's kind of why I went with that at the beginning.
Yeah, I know, but it just sounds so like I don't know if I would invest 6,000 because I have a lack of energy. Now, would I invest 6,000 if that lack of energy caused me not to be able to function at my job, or not to make money, or not to be able to have time with my kids? See, I'm not selling the thing. I'm selling the results of that thing, right? So we have to tie that in. When we just say lack of energy, and I'm not saying you are, but when you say it's going to help you get more energy, who cares? What does that get them? Her not having the energy, what's that holding her back from being able to do? That's what we're really selling with what you're doing.
Yeah, that's right.
That makes sense? Because at the end, she's backing out because she still has a fear in her mind. People only back out because of why?
Fear.
They have a fear, right?
Yeah.
So we have to help them overcome that fear on that call, okay? But if she's tying in like $6,000 for this is going to give me more energy, without her looking at what the energy will do for her emotionally, she's going to back out, or she's not going to buy.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, we brought up things on the call, things like her sister has lupus. Her mom had like some severe cognitive diseases when she was in her latter years. And so I would try to say stuff like, well, so that you can prevent these things from happening, so that you can be around. And
what is the lack of energy preventing her from doing? That's what you have to find out.
Well, she kept on saying things like feel better. And I asked her what feel better meant.
Okay, so you not having this energy, what is that causing you not to be able to do in your life? Right there. What is the lack of energy? What is the problem? Here's her situation. Here's where she wants to be. What is the problem causing? Where's the gap?
Okay.
You see what I mean? If you're just selling, you're going to have more energy. What does that mean to anybody? Like, what does the energy do? Like, what is her lack of energy preventing her from being able to do? If I'm going to pay $6,000, if my lack of energy is causing me to not be able to wake up for meetings and I lose money, or my lack of energy is causing me to go to bed at 7 at night and I don't have any time with my kids, or my lack of energy is causing me not to be able to play sports with my son, I'm going to pay whatever I can to solve that. But if somebody's saying, well, you're going to have more energy and you're going to feel better, what does that mean? It's too generic. It needs to hit hard, and it has to hit hard by you asking them, like, them not having that energy. What's it preventing you from being able to do in your life?
That's in problem awareness.
Yeah, 100%. Because you have to find out what their problem is, which is lack of energy. What is the root cause of the problem? Like, what's causing the lack of energy? And then how is the lack of energy affecting them, even emotionally? That's what problem awareness questions are. That's where you're digging out a problem. If you're not, you're just too surface level and they're not going to move on that. Most people won't.
Hey guys, my name's Ashley. I'm in the solar industry. So I think one of the biggest things I kind of struggle with is tonality and practicing that. I feel like I'm in a predominantly male field with solar, and sometimes I can come off maybe a little aggressive. And I'm wondering if you could suggest any like videos or techniques to practice, or
well, first of all, I don't know what your tonality sounds like. So when you say you come off as aggressive, what does that mean?
Maybe confrontational sometimes.
You don't sound very aggressive to me.
I don't. That's good.
Does Ashley sound aggressive? Confrontational?
Maybe
So
role
why don't
play
you-
30 seconds.
Why don't you role play with me and let's see how you come across, because you sound pretty normal to me.
I think it tends to come up when I'm getting objections, like people are like, oh, this panel is better than that panel, or they're really focusing on things that don't really matter, like what's the material of the frame of the panel made out of, stuff like that. And then I almost get like a little frustrated.
Yeah, the only reason why they're asking you those questions is because they've commoditized you, because you haven't pulled out any emotion. The only reason why you'd get asked little dumb questions like that is because they're commoditizing you and they're trying to take control of the conversation, because you haven't dug deep enough to find out what their pain is, and like Brian, what their real problems are, what are the root cause of the problem, and how is it affecting them. If you're just asking a few surface level questions and going into a pitch or presentation, they're going to ask like crazy dumb questions like that to try to get rid of you. I'm just giving you kind of overview right there.
Okay, that makes sense.
Why don't I throw out an objection? What's a standard objection you get in your space?
People ask a lot about like efficiency of panels, when really what matters is like wattage of panels is more important, I think.
Okay, so they ask like, well, how efficient are these panels?
Yeah. And I think one of the things that happens is people are really
How does that come up? Because if somebody was selling solar to me, I wouldn't even think to even ask that. I wouldn't even know to ask that, because I don't know enough about solar. Are all your customers like educated in solar panels?
I don't know. I think it's a lot of people reading solar reviews and like getting 10 quotes and talking to multiple companies.
Is that the case, Brandon? I know you're in solar.
Yeah, it can happen. It doesn't happen as much to me. I try to stay away from all the riffraff. But yeah, it definitely, like certain panel manufacturers, sometimes a customer wants this panel over this one. And the reality is, like she said, it's not as big of a deal as what customers make it out to be sometimes.
Yeah, because I trained Joseph Roberry in my Inner Circle program the last couple of years, and he's never brought up that people have that concern. But maybe he's getting it and just knows how to handle it real quick and hasn't asked me. So Ashley, why don't I just tell you that concern, and let's see how confrontational you are. What should I ask you? What should I say?
You should say something like, well, what's the efficiency of the panel LG?
Okay, but Ashley, I mean, this sounds good and everything, but what are the efficiency of these panels? Like I've read some reviews, like what's the real efficiency?
Sure. So I think what you're really focusing on is you're wanting to make sure that you get enough power from your panels. What you really want to focus on is wattage, not so much on efficiency.
Do you even know why I asked that question in the first place?
No.
You probably should clarify and ask me why I would even ask that.
Okay,
right?
fair.
Because you're assuming you know because somebody else has asked you that same question. but I might be asking you that question for a different reason, right? So what you want to say, hold on. When you said that you read online reviews of the efficiency of the panel, what do you mean by online reviews, just so I understand? Now they're going to tell you, well, I was on this site and it said this. Okay, now you might need to clarify that even more because maybe that doesn't make sense. Sometimes when you ask a couple clarifying questions, they'll resolve their own concern. I'm not kidding. They'll just resolve their own concern by you clarifying. They're like, oh, well, I guess it didn't even make sense. I'm not joking. But if you just go right into like rebuttal mode, you're just like throwing mud against the wall, hoping that something you say sticks, and you don't even know why they even had the objection in the first place. Do you see what I mean, Ashley?
Yeah, that makes
sense. Say, okay, hold on. When you say you read an online review about efficiency of panels, how do you mean by that? Or where were you at? Just so I understand. Oh, my friend next door has Vivint Solar or whatever, right? Oh, your friend. Now that tells you something different. Now that tells you like, oh, I've got to help him resolve this concern that his friend's given to him, right? Because maybe his friend's trying to sign him up to the other company. But you wouldn't know that if you just spouted it off. So you have to first clarify what they even mean. Or did you ask me that for a reason, just so I understand? Oh, well, yeah, I was reading an online review and just a simple clarifying question. Okay. Yeah. But let's keep going. Ask me a clarifying question this time. Okay. So I was doing an online review here. What's the efficiency of these panels though, Ashley?
Okay, hold on. So you said you read something online. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it wasn't necessarily online. My friend two doors down just had Vivint Solar install a system a couple months ago. And he was telling me that there's differences in panels and I didn't know much about it. So that's why I was asking.
Okay. So it sounds a little bit like you're wanting to make sure that you're getting a good system and it's efficient for what you're looking for your household and your needs?
Well, I don't know what I don't know.
True. See, I don't know where to go from there.
Where should she go? I'm going to help you. Where should she go, everybody?
Go to your book of questions with the course. You learn to clarify and probe and drill that down. You need to master that because that's going to be the gateway to navigate your discovery call.
Okay. Yeah, Tom's in my advanced inner circle program, so he knows all this stuff. So in your training, like NEPQ 3.0, the video training, go into the file vault underneath bonus material, and there's a book in there called the NEPQ Black Book of Questions. And I put a ton more probing and clarifying questions. I didn't give you enough there for you to be able to launch into answering that.
Okay.
Like you have to clarify even more. Okay, hold on. When you said your neighbor just got Vivint Solar, what did your neighbor say to you about that? Just so I understand where he's coming from. Oh, well, he said this panel and that panel. Okay, and do you know what type of panel he has?
Okay.
So you still have to clarify and probe more to get more details. And I'm telling you, a lot of times when you do that, they just resolve their own concern. Now, once you clarify, then you discuss that, okay? And then you ask a diffusing question. That's all you got to do with concerns. It's really that simple. It's clarify, discuss like a friend with a friend, and then diffuse. But you have to follow that formula. First of all, you have to clarify to even know what the concern even means and where they're coming from.
Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, I can see how I automatically jump to assuming their fear.
You jump right in because you've heard that concern 100 times and you think everybody has the same concern, but you might talk to 100 people that have that concern and 90% of it are coming from a different background of where that concern is coming from. Okay. You just don't know until you ask.
Okay. That was insightful.
Plus, it just shows that you're way more intelligent when you're asking those questions. They view you more as an expert who's trying to find out more details to see if you can help them. Whereas if you just go right into rebuttal mode, they're just like, oh, they're just trying to, sell me.
Yeah, that's really true. I think and I think that's when it gets aggressive is when I go into rebuttal and then I'm like, no, but I'm right. It's not as important.
Yeah. Hey, listen, Stephen R. Covey, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still, period. Right? Let's say that you're into politics, which I absolutely hate both parties. Let's say you're in politics and you're like a big Democrat or a big Republican and your friend posts something that you don't like and you're right. And you start arguing back and forth on Facebook. Mm-hmm. How many of those arguments did you win?
None.
How many of those people converted over to your way of political thinking? You're right, Ashley. let me resign from the Republican Party and become a Democrat or vice versa. I mean, come on, nobody does. They just dig in their heels even more.
That's true. That's
Same
true.
thing with your prospects.
That was really insightful. I appreciate that. Thank
All right,
you.
I hope that helped.
Hey, Jeremy. Okay, so I was on a call yesterday.
Hey, did you get my
and
email?
I did.
Okay, I hope that helped you.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
But
so sometimes I pull out more information for you and I'll just email it to you if I didn't know how to answer that on the call because it didn't come to my mind quick enough.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I was on a call yesterday and it was just a discovery call. And the person, like, we were going through, and then by the end of it, before I set up the meeting, he basically said, yeah, but I'm going to be, I forgot what question I asked him, but basically I asked him, is there anything that would be preventing you from, looking at solar in the past? And he was kind of like, or looking at reducing your energy bill in the past. And
Whoa. That's a solution awareness question you asked?
Something similar to that. I don't remember.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more of that because I don't understand that. So where in the process were you and why did you ask that?
Solution awareness was where I was, and I was just trying to pull out,
So did you ask him, like, before we started talking, were you out there looking for ways to lower your energy? Or now when you sell solar, are you selling more of the lease or are you selling where they just buy the power from you in your state?
Loans. So I'm
you do
selling loans.
Okay, yeah. I had Rowberry write that up for you for loans too, because I didn't know what you did. Okay,
yeah,
so you keep going.
Yeah.
So you asked him, like, what was he doing in the past to lower his electricity, right?
Yeah, right. If anything at all. And he basically said, yeah, I mean, I've had a few quotes, and then, I asked him, well, what prevented you from going with them? And he basically said, well, I'm thinking about moving in 3 years. And he was pretty adamant about that in the conversation. How could I guess, pull out or ask questions to pull out if that's a true concern or not?
Well, first of all, did he book on your calendar or was this a cold call?
He booked.
Okay,
He booked
so
on my
if he
calendar.
booked, what does that mean?
That means he's looking. That
That
means
means he has
problem.
problems and he's looking. Otherwise, he wouldn't be booking. That's just a smoke screen objection.
Yeah.
I just want you to understand. Now, you can't tell him that, but I just want you to think about that in your mind. He booked on your calendar. So he's obviously interested in solar for some reason.
Correct.
The reasons he gave you in that conversation on why he was looking.
Right. So
that's what I'm
I
saying.
guess
What were the reasons he gave you on that call on why he was looking?
He just wanted to reduce his energy cost.
Okay. So at the end, he's like, well, I didn't go with them because I'm moving in 3 years. So what you would say there, just say, so help me understand, if you're moving in 3 years, why are you possibly looking at getting solar now then? Wouldn't you want to ask that?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So help me understand, like, if you're moving in 3 years, what caused you to have this call to possibly look at getting solar now so you could reduce energy if you're just moving in 3 years? Oh, I want to because of
XYZ. Yeah. I think he was thinking that it wasn't going to be as expensive as what solar actually is. And he was trying to fish around.
You know that for sure?
I don't.
Okay. You're assuming. That's a dangerous place.
I'm assuming.
Okay.
I'm assuming.
Want to ask. But that question you would have asked that brought in the reasons why he was looking to look at solar to save money on his bills. Because obviously he booked on your calendar for a reason. He probably wasn't just bored one day, like, I think I'm just going to randomly spend some of my valuable time with somebody offering solar and I'm not interested at all.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Does that help?
For sure. And I think sometimes people will look, like, because they see an ad or whatever, and they'll look knowing that they're going to move anyway, but they'll still look just to get an idea of pricing and stuff.
Possibly. Now, does the panels increase the value of the home? Like, what are some other benefits if they do move and they can't take the solar with them? I don't know.
I mean, so that's the thing. I just don't want to put somebody in that predicament because at the end of the day, we can't verify that the system is going to increase home value with just being in the home for 3 years. Like, I just don't want to put somebody.
Does it typically increase the value of the home? Yes or no?
It does, but not instantly.
But would it usually do it in 3 years?
There's a lot of varying factors that go into play there, though. Like, it's not just like it's not a guarantee that it's going to increase the value of their house.
What state do you live in?
I live in Florida.
Okay. Does it usually increase by 10%, 5%, 1%, or sometimes 0%, or what's the average?
That's what so like in the state of Florida, there's not enough data to really show. In California, it's about
you're going down rabbit's holes, dude. Why do you care if there's enough data to show that you're going to increase your home buyer by 12.65%?
Right.
Let's say it only increases it by 4%.
Yeah, that's true.
Who cares, right? So if that's his concern, you just say, yeah, typically the reason why somebody might, put in solar because they want to save money on their electric bills. And it's not going to be that much. I mean, you're only going to save $40, $50, $60 a month. I mean, it's only $600-$700 a year you save. It's not a ton, but typically if somebody moves, I mean, and it might not be that big of a deal, but it might only increase your home value by 4, 7, 10, 12%. Do you see why somebody might still do that possibly? So there's things you can throw in there, but I would have simply asked them, so help me understand then, like, I guess, why are you possibly looking at getting solar put in to save money on your electric if you were just planning on moving in 3 years?
Mhm.
That's what I would have asked him there, because you got to find that out.
Right.
Okay. Because then maybe he comes back and says, well, I don't know if we're moving for sure. We might not move. I mean,
Yeah.
see what I
And
mean?
and that's kind of where my question is, like, just to try to pull out, is that a true smokescreen or is that an actual legit concern that they
You booked on your calendar for a reason.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a smokescreen. So I would have asked him that for sure.
Hey, Jeremy. Awesome.
Am I
Thanks
pronouncing your name right?
Yeah, Korea. Mhm.
Dude, I'm from Arkansas. We don't know how to pronounce names down there.
No worries. So I had a quick question. So you actually just did a podcast with my boss here, Ulrich. So we do YouTube ads.
You sell
Yeah.
YouTube, right? YouTube marketing. Okay, nice. Okay, well, we know what you sell now. I was just going to ask you.
Awesome. So my question is kind of simple. So let's say you talked to a prospect 3-4 months ago. At the time, they weren't kind of ready and they kind of ghosted you in that sense, but they rebook on your calendar, right?
Okay.
How far, I guess, how much of the process would you go over again?
100% of it, because they're not going to remember any of it.
Okay.
And you're not going to remember any of it.
Yeah. I take.
How many people remember prospect conversations for 5 months ago?
Depends how it ended.
Unless you have 1 lead a day.
Yeah.
Or 1 lead a week. If you're calling 10 leads a day and talking to them, you're not going to probably remember a conversation 5 years ago. And their situation might have completely changed.
Okay, gotcha. That was really the only question.
Well, that was an easy question. That's an easy question in the book, man. Yeah, you definitely want to take them through. Even if it's like you know, let's say that let me give you an example. Let's say that you have the first call discovery. I don't know if you do you do a 1 call close or 2 call close?
1 call. We got a setter and then straight to, yeah.
Yeah, you triage and then you do like a 1 call. And what's your price points that you sell?
9,800.
9,800, like a monthly retainer?
No, that's like
upfront. Okay. So 10 grand. So let's say that you have the initial conversation, the discovery, or, the discovery call. For some reason, his spouse, just got to be on there, whatever. And you book a second call 3 days later. You're still going to ask some of those same questions you asked to him on the first call 3 days later, but you have to rephrase them a little bit. Okay. You can't just ask the exact same question because you've got to pull the other decision maker in as well. Or let's say that they want you to book with their other business partner because maybe they're 2 business people and they want to see it together. Right. And that's going to be some of the case sometimes. Okay. Selling B2B. Okay. So you want to go back through some of those questions. Now, you don't want to, like, what is your first situation question you usually ask?
Yeah. So I just want to break this up just so you can understand. So I don't handle, like, our core clientele is coaches, consultants, course creators. I handle the other side. So I handle local businesses, just like any other kind of business. So usually my first situation question would be like, so I guess, tell me, what do you have in place for marketing right now? What are you doing for marketing?
Okay,
right
yeah,
now?
you're finding out their present situation. That's a good one. So what do you do for marketing now? Like, how do you drive traffic to your company or whatever, something like that? Okay, so let's say you found that out, and then 3 days later, you're booking with both people, both business partners. Okay, now, John, remind me again. My wife always says I have amnesia if you're married. If you're not married, my mom always tells me I have amnesia. I don't know, something like that. So my mom always tells me I have amnesia these days. Tell me again, what did you say you do specifically to drive traffic? I think you'd said something around that. Tell me a little bit more about that, because you want to drive it from both people, because that other business partner might give you a different story that helps you even sell better. Okay. So you just rearrange the question. You're asking the same question, but you're kind of rearranging it where it doesn't sound like exactly the same, or they're like, I just told you. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
I just have a real quick question about the referral and the script. I'm working on it already. I will box you after this.
Okay, because we've already done your, because you're cold calling CPAs, right? So for insurance. So we've already got your problem statement done, tied in. We've got your personalized intro. I think we've done your situation questions. Now we're in problem awareness section for your script, right?
Yeah. So
Beautiful.
I that one. So I'm gonna shoot you the
I might not be
text.
able to see that till tonight because I've got back-to-back meetings for like 3 hours right after you guys.
Yeah.
I've got to do it live and then meetings. Go ahead.
I just have some quick question about the referral text. I've got this from one of my clients. Just she's a relative of this client, and I got her number. So I don't know, like, is it good to give her a call? She always busy, or if I can text
Is a
her
relative
first?
of yours?
No, a relative of my client.
One of your clients. Okay. So what you need to do, I'll give you a short answer and then I'll give you study materials to go in and write it down. If you go into the training, the virtual training center that you have, right? Go into the file vault, go to bonus material, and then NEPQ Black Book of Question. There's 4 pages on how to get referrals and then what to say when you actually call the referral. So it's like word for word. Something like, let me look at it real quick. I actually have it here. I was looking at it before. I was trying to learn something new. You know, sometimes I forget what I even train you guys. So let me look at this bad boy. Hold on. It's on page, I think, 47 of that Black Book. Let's see here. Yeah. So has this client of yours actually told this person that you would be calling?
No.
Oh, no bueno. You definitely want to do that because otherwise it's more of a cold call. Okay. So if you go to page, let me teach you how to do this. If you go to page, page 48. Okay. This sets up, you probably need to call your client back and follow what I teach on page 48 and page 49.
Yeah.
And they're going to actually call them for you, which is going to make when you call them far more powerful. Okay. Because when you're calling them, you're going to say, hi, is this John? Hey, John, this is just Gina Tang. One of your mutual friends, Carol, suggested I call you as I recently helped her with what? What did you help her with?
The life insurance.
I recently helped her with a stronger policy for her family, like financial protection. And she had mentioned to me that you might possibly be looking for something similar. And she thought I should actually call you. Is this an appropriate time? That's on page 51. But you need to call her first. And page 48 and 49 coaches you to actually what to actually say to her that will actually cause her to want to reach out to the contact. Because if she does, it's going to be far more powerful than you just randomly calling her. But when you do call her, follow what I just said on page 51 and follow that to a script. Works every time.
Yeah, and then I have another one. That's one. She talked to her friends, and I had a chance to talk with her like first time. But the conversation really quick. I cannot go like the whole script for a referral. Because she's like on the way, just get off from work and just like driving home. So she said, call me back on like tomorrow at 10 o'clock.
And what did you say? Did you say, I'll call you back?
Yes.
You don't want to say that. Here's what you want to say. Let me help you position yourself as more of the authority, which you are, Gina. I mean, you're one of the top people in your entire company in the world, right? I mean, you're very successful. You make tens of thousands of dollars a month. But if you position yourself even more, you're going to make even more. You're going to have more people call you back. So what you want to say, oh, can you call me back, Saturday morning at 10? Possibly. I'd have to look at my schedule. Here's what I can do. I can give you my number. And then I can have you call me in the next few days just to see if I would be available for you. Would that be appropriate? Okay, my number is 815-865-6545. Now, what's your time frame on getting back to me in the next day or two to see if I'd actually be available for you? What did that just do?
So they know that I'm busy.
That you're busy.
Yeah, and then they will call back.
When you say to see if I would be available for you, that immediately does what? It positions you as an expert whose time is valuable. If you just call around, what do you think they view you guys as? Oh yeah, I'll call back. They view you as somebody just trying to sell them something. And that's why they try to get rid of you. They don't answer the call. They don't return your messages, right? That's why they do that. Now, when they say, oh, I could call you back. Now, if they give you a specific time, like I'm going to call you tomorrow at 2, that's fine. You book it. But if like, oh, I don't know, in the next day or two, I'm just kind of busy. Well, what I can do if it helps you, if you have your calendar handy, I can pull up mine. That way you can book a specific time with me so you don't have to chase me down and vice versa. Would that help you? Now, what did that do?
That means you know what is like the call expected and just like set up a next appointment.
You got a booked appointment and it now establishes you, when I say just to make sure you don't have to chase me down and vice versa, how does that make you look?
Look very
Busy,
expert.
successful. Experts are busy and successful. People who are not experts are not successful. They're not busy. They're clingy and they're always attached. You're detached. That automatically attracts them to you. Now, at that time, the next day at 2, if they don't call right at that time, wait 3 or 4 minutes and then you call them. And that's it.
So what is the situation? Yes, I couldn't contact her and it's been like few days. Should I call her again or should I text her for that one?
You've only left one message?
Yes.
This is the same person?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Next time I want you to set yourself up more as an authority because they would get back to you. Because if you call and leave a message, then you should text them at the same time. After you leave the first message, text them. Because I never even check my voice messages, guys. I never check my voice messages. You could call me from Publishers Clearinghouse and say, Jeremy Miner, you won $1 billion. And I would never know because I never check my voice messages. But if you text me, I check my text messages. A lot of people are like that now. You got to realize they might even check your freaking voice message. So you text them the same thing. Hey, this is Gina, a mutual friend of yours, John Kerry, thought I should call you as I recently helped them build more financial protection with their policies. And he thought that you might possibly be looking for something that as well. And I just had time to get back to you to see if I could help. Here's my number. I'll be available here for a little bit today. I'll be available here for a little bit today. Positions you as busy, more the authority. Okay. Not just call me anytime today. I'll be by my phone. I mean, no, none of that. Now, if they don't return the call, the next day you call and leave a second message. Very similar. Left you a message yesterday. You had, mutual friend of yours, blah, 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 had asked me to call, blah, 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 blah. Same thing. The next day, third call is your final message. Hey, John, tried to reach you a few times. A mutual friend of yours, Kelly Wayne, who I recently helped build more of a financial protection for her family with policies. Thought that you might be going through X, Y, and Z as well. She thought I could help. I tried to reach you a few times, left a few messages, but I didn't hear back from you. So this will be my final attempt to reach you. So if you want to reach me, you'll have to call me at this number, blah, 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 blah. Once again, this will be my final attempt to reach you. What does that do?
That means I'm not needy. If she needed, she's going to call me up.
It just positions you as somebody that's busy and successful. You'll be surprised how many people call you back when you leave a third and final message. When you start calling 3 times a day, what do you think's going on in their mind? What's going on in your mind when salespeople call you 3 times a day?
That means they're trying to sell you something and
and you don't call them back. Or if you do call them back, you just throw out objections, right? Stop being like the salespeople you guys don't like. It's the same thing, right? It's human behavior one-on-one. If you react to salespeople who do that type of stuff, well, what do you think your prospects are doing to you if you're doing the same thing?
Yeah.
They're just commoditizing you.
Hey, how you doing?
Joe, what's going on?
Hey, man. So I sell solar, as you know. One thing that I've been kind of running into. Like I said, I've only been, I went through the whole virtual training course, like last week, and right now, like some scripting and things like that.
Yeah.
My company is extremely big, and I think it's just big in the solar industry on the pre-frame about when you show up to an appointment that someone's booked about, all right, so, if it makes sense, we'll move forward. If not, no harm done. So basically you're kind of setting that expectation. And I notice when I'm going in, because I'm not saying that, it seems, and I'm sure it's just because I'm still learning too, but it seems like people, when I'm done with like the presentation or whatnot, asking some of the questions. I don't have them all memorized.
Let me stop you right there. So what you need to do is until you really start to get any PQ down and you really have it scripted out, okay? And you've really got all your questions down, you need to just use it here and there. But if you try to switch and you don't even know what you're doing, then you're going to struggle. Your sales will actually dip a little bit because you don't know what you're doing, right? Like if you're trying to go through and you use 25%, but then at the end you're like, then you just go right back into what you did before, it's not going to work as effective. Okay. So I always tell that to a brand new person getting involved in the training is like your first couple of weeks, like your first month, until you've gotten your questions written out, you really role played. I think you're in our NEPQ 3.0 course where you have the role playing, right? The advanced role. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
That's really going to help you with your tonality. It's just like another guy, like there's a guy that I train in solar, is one of my advanced inner circle members. His name's Joseph Roberry. And his first month, he tried to switch over it and his sales went down by 30% because he didn't have it down. He didn't know what he was doing, right?
Right.
He was stumbling on his words. He was unsure of what he was doing. And so it took him a couple of months before he really got it down, because then he had his questions written out and he started, he went from making about 10 grand a month to like 3 months later, he went up to 30 grand a month. Now he's almost up to about 100,000 a month in commissions, not sales, like commissions. But if you try to switch over and you don't know what you're doing, you're going to sound uncertain.
Because I noticed at the end, I guess probably because my uncertainty too at times, where people are kind of like, all right, well, thanks. Today,
it's
my one appointment.
100% your uncertainty because you don't know what you're doing. So you're trying to mix everything that you've done in the past with what you're starting to learn here. Now, it's okay to implement a couple questions here and there, like probing and clarifying and asking a few questions, like a situation question or a solution awareness question with what you're doing. But you've got to get your questioning down. How can you switch over to something you don't know?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But I will tell you, just because you set a quote unquote pre-frame in the beginning and say at the end, either it's, what you're looking for, or we're just going to move on. All that does is put sales pressure on the whole conversation of that prospect. Because I want you to imagine yourself. Let's say somebody's a salesperson's trying to sell you, and at the very beginning, they do the same thing. So at the end of this call, you're going to decide if this is what you're looking for, or if it's not. And if it's not, it's no big deal. The whole time, all you're going to be thinking about is what, while that salesperson's presenting to you?
Why I shouldn't do it.
You're just triggering sales resistance. That technique does not work. There's no scientific data or evidence that shows that works. That is a theory to make salespeople feel better. Okay.
And that does make sense. The pressure on my end is like where my company is like, where are you setting the expectations? And I'm like, I don't think they understand. Obviously, they don't understand.
They don't care about your expectations, dude. Let me be honest with you. They don't care. They know that they can say, well, I want to think it over. And they know what you're going to do, right? You're going to let them think it over. You're not going to be like, no, I'm not going to take your business a week from now. They're not stupid. Like those techniques might have worked 30 or 40 years ago, but people are far more educated. They're far more cautious. They're far more skeptical. Okay.
Right. If you were new, would you also handle objections maybe kind of the same way you used to, even though it's not 100% NEPQ yet? Because I noticed like certain things will trigger and you want to go back to your old way, but you're trying to like rethink how you're used to it.
Well, if you don't know how to do it in NEPQ, you're probably going to have to stick with your own way until you learn it. Because if you're just like, and you don't know what to do, that's going to be pretty bad. Right.
Yeah,
but I just want to make sure you understand, setting a pre-frame does not mean that they're just going to be like, oh, well, because he set the expectation in the beginning, then I'm going to buy at the end. That's just BS.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's just, it is what it is. So when you're asking the right questions, your situation questions and your problem awareness, and you're pulling out their problems and problems they didn't even think they had before you started talking to them, and the root cause of the problem and how the problem's affecting them. And you're probing and clarifying off of their problems. And then you're moving into the solution awareness stage, where you're starting to get them to see from your questions how once their problems are solved, where they will be, right? So they're starting to view where their future is once their problem is solved. Now, what is your problem that you solve?
Virtually, I cut utility costs out in the long term, so you actually start to own your power instead of renting it. So
So you save them money where they don't have to keep basically renting power. So it's like a homeowner compared to somebody who rents a house every year. That's basically what it is, right? So you're saving them money, and if you can't ask the right questions to get them to see that in their own mind, you're keeping them in status quo, because nothing will ever change for them. They're going to keep paying that money every single year, year after year after year after year after year, and they're going to pay probably twice as much as they would have if they would have just switched to solar, right?
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, so you just got to get your questions down, and really rehearse it and practice it on our advanced role-playing calls. And once you feel confident, then you go in full bore. Right now, you can interject things here and there, but if you try to switch and you only know a third of it, it's not going to help you a ton, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
right.
One more thing, super quick. I heard this just a bit ago. If someone's concerned about a payment, let's just say like $200 a month, and I heard someone say, well, really what you're trying to do is even magnify that. So like, look at the long term, and the system's worth like 50,000. So maybe even bring up, well, it's not even a $200 decision. It's really a $50,000 decision. You kind of like magnify it in someone's mind, and then somehow
I
go
don't know
in.
what you're referring to. What are you referring to?
Well, it's something Grant Cardone did on one of his videos. So he was like talking to the guy. He said $1,500 a month's a lot, and he's like, well, it's not a $1,500 decision. You're going to end up spending $30,000 over the next 2 years. You need to be thinking about 30,000, not 1,500.
Yeah, but when you say you need to be thinking about it, it's just coming from you, your own opinion, your agenda. It doesn't work, guys. Like I'm saying, you're still going back into old slick Willie sales mode. That stuff doesn't work. I hate to tell you. I know.
That's good. So would you focus more on the payment or focus on the bigger number if someone was having hesitancy with the
well, how much are they paying in utilities?
The payment will be close to the same, and then even more on the back end. So like maybe
we actually went over this with Brandon Runkle last week. Do you remember we went over this?
I do remember that.
Thing. You should go back and just write that down word for word where we go over that, because I can't remember exactly what I said, but I think it was pretty good. So go back to last week's and just write down exactly what we were asking to get them to realize, even though the payment's the same right now, because the utility bills keep going up 4% every year, 4%, 4%, 4%, 4%, that even in 2 years, it's actually cheaper. And by the time they get to 25 years, they're actually paying half the cost. You can't say it like that, though. If you just tell them that, it's going to go in one ear, out the other. Okay. So with Brandon, we formed it in a couple different questions to get them to realize what they would be paying over the next several years. And they came to their own conclusion that actually solar would be half the cost.
Hey, everyone. So this week, my question has something to do with the consequence stage. I sell a health coaching program for about $6,000.
Okay.
And I was listening to Matt and Will talk about this. And we're not supposed to leave consequence until we get a real answer. Because if it remains surface, most likely they won't buy because the gap is not stretched. So sorry, Jeremy, go ahead.
Well, it just depends. I mean, you can't just keep asking 6 consequence questions.
Right.
Never give you there's a fine line there, but I know what you're saying. Go ahead.
Okay. So an incident happened on the weekend where the lady's like, well, my mom, she lost hair. She had really bad energy for the last, however many years of her life. I'm seeing that as well. I saw that in my aunts. And I just didn't feel like I was getting deep enough with her. So I'd like to kind of maybe role play that with you and maybe see you do that for me, just to see Like if I was missing something in that particular stage.
So maybe I missed it. So you asked, what question did you ask?
Well, I was asking, so what happens if nothing changes and you just keep doing the same types of things that haven't been working for you, and things get even worse in the next 3, 6, 12 months?
And what did she say?
She said, well, you know, then I'll just keep looking. I'll just keep looking. I won't give up looking.
Okay, so it's important for you to do something. So just because she said that doesn't necessarily mean she's saying that I don't like your program. She could interpret what you just said as like, what if it doesn't work out with my program I'm offering you? I've had some people think that, oh, well, I'll just go find something else if it doesn't work out for you.
Right.
So are you sure she didn't imply that?
Well, absolutely. Well, because when we got to the price, she's like, well, this is a scam. This is not reasonable. Like, this is way too much money. Like,
that means you didn't pull out any emotion from
That's
it.
what I'm saying.
100%. Yeah. Anytime somebody says something like that and they booked on your calendar because they have problems.
Yeah.
They were just too surface. You didn't probe and clarify enough.
Yeah. And knowing that, I mean, it could have been in any, part of it, like
problem awareness, your solution awareness questions. That's where the sale is made. It's confirmed in the consequence and commitment stage.
Okay.
Sales made in the problem awareness and solution awareness. That's where you're probing and you're probing off their answers to pull out more underlining issues and challenges they didn't even think they had.
Okay. So I listened to your interview with Steve, and he told us about the rationale question. Can I share mine with you, and then maybe you could help, make it sound better?
My interview with Steve?
Steve Coops.
Oh, Steve Coops. Oh yeah, he's one of my inner circle members. Yeah, okay.
That's
Sorry,
right.
we got a bunch of Steves. Okay, I'm like,
no problem.
What are you talking about? Okay,
No.
go ahead. Yeah.
So just so I can see the rationale behind why you might want to get some help with losing the weight so that you can get your health back. I mean, I guess other than a plan and a plan and
Too long.
Like
too long. You're going overboard. Okay, so John, just so I can see the rationale behind why you might be, looking to have some help in losing the weight, but besides just wanting to lose this 30 pounds, like what's the main reason why you're looking for outside help rather than just going back to one of those diets you've used in the past? You just got to shorten that down. Because otherwise, it's just too all over the place.
Yeah, because I don't want to keep guessing. So I love how you did that, because I know the rather is very important, rather than just keep doing what you're doing, or rather than just.
Now, why would we want to ask them
that? Then it makes them
Why
think,
would we want to compare?
Because the option to stay exactly where they are doing nothing different is an actual option that they can pick, versus maybe something different that can actually get them to where they say they want to go.
Well, it causes them to basically say, no, I don't want to go back to that. Here's why I'm looking. So at the very end, they can't come back and say, well, I might go back on one of my diets. Like they've already told themselves why they can't.
Sure.
Right. So it's just like if you were selling solar, we were just talking about solar, the same question would be, so if, let's say you had a second appointment and you're coming back. So John, just so I can see, and this is a problem awareness question towards the end, just so I can understand the rationale behind why you might be looking at solar, but besides just, wanting to reduce your utility bills, like what's the main reason why you might be looking for solar rather than just, staying on the same, billing cycle with your company you're with now?
Got it.
Okay. It's the same process. Doesn't matter what you sell. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting them to compare. And then they're saying, well, the reason why we're looking for it is because of this, this, and this. So they can't come back and say, well, we're just going to stay at this, because they've already told you and themselves why they can't.
Okay. I know you mentioned, thank you for that. I know you mentioned that sometimes you jump from like problem solution to another phase, and sometimes they don't go necessarily in order.
They go 90% in order.
90% in order. So, okay. But when would you ever go off and then have to come back?
Well, let's say in the beginning, let's say in your problem awareness question, she's like, well, if this is going to cost me something, is this a scam? Well, I'd probably want to ask a consequence question there rather than just waiting down the road.
Okay,
so I might say, hold on, what do you mean by scam? I'm dead serious. And so when you say that, they're like, well, I mean, blah, 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 or whatever, right? And so can I make a suggestion to you? I'm assuming that you understand in order for a person to be able to lose this weight that you're talking about, because you'd mentioned 30 to 40 pounds, in order for them to learn the right skills and the right diet and nutrition to be able to lose the weight so they don't have diabetes, it's going to require them to put in some capital or funds into that to be able to lose the weight so they don't have that challenge. I mean, with your situation, what type of funding do you have to put into your nutrition so you can lose the weight and not have the diabetes? Notice I'm comparing funding to them getting what?
Diabetes.
Getting them what they said they wanted, right? Because is it more expensive to pay for your coaching program to not have diabetes? Or is it more expensive to not pay for your coaching program and have diabetes for the next 20 years?
Right.
You see the difference?
Yes.
Okay. Does that help? Or
yeah, absolutely.
Anytime somebody says that to you at the end, you just automatically know that it was too surface in the conversation. You didn't clarify and probe to pull out more pain, where the gap is so large that the price looks so tiny compared to where they feel like they want to be, but all these problems are holding them back. So they'll do whatever they can to go find $6,000 to solve that.
But what happens if they just remain so surface and you can't get anything out of them, like because of like what do you do in that case? How do you call that out?
It just depends. I mean, like I said, I have to read their tonality and stuff, what they're doing. But if I'm with a prospect, let's say I'm in a prospect back in my sales career and they're just like being surface, I would simply stop sometimes, like, John, you seem hesitant. You seem hesitant when I was asking you that question. What's behind that? And I'm just real with them. Amy, you seem hesitant when I asked you that. What's behind that? Just like that. Gets real quick. Do you see that? Do you think they're gonna be like, oh no, I'm not hesitant? No, they're gonna give you their concern. Well, I have this concern because I think it's a scam, or I have this concern because I don't have any money, or I have this concern because of this. But if you're not able to pull out, like I said, it's all about the gap, guys and gals. Here's where they are, okay? Here's you, even playing field right now, okay? When you start this process, right now, if you started talking about your solution and they don't feel like the need or the problem, right? The price, here's the problem, here's the price, problem seems here, price seems too high, right? But if you're asking the right questions and you're not just going through your sales structure, like repeating it like a robot, right? Your conversation, you're asking the question in the right tone with the right verbal pausing. Make sure you're on those advanced role-playing training calls. That's really going to help you. And that allows them to want to open up to you and want to engage with you. Whereas if you're just asking surface level question, they feel like it's an interrogation and you're just trying to sell them something. So they're very hesitant.
Okay.
You see that? See the difference? Okay. Yeah. So if anybody does that to you, again, just stop and say, Amy, you seem a bit hesitant when I was asking you about X and Y and Z. What's behind that? Just like that. I mean, does that sound real? Does that sound fake? No, it sounds real, right?
Yeah,
Sounds
real.
natural.
Yeah.
Right. Sounds like I'm here to help you, but I can't help you if I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Right. When you come across that way, people just really open up to you. You know, it's just easy.
Hey, Jeremy, can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, Jeremy. So I sell life insurance primarily to seniors. And Jeremy, one question I have for you, and this is more like a general question. I was just wondering that, I mean, I'm allowed to sell insurance both over the phone, and I'm also allowed to sell face-to-face. Do you think that would face-to-face give better results? Because since we are watching facial expressions and everything?
Do you sell on the phone or on Zoom?
On the phone.
Okay. You mean like going to their home?
Yeah.
I think you can just be just as effective if you get them on Zoom. Like we train a fairly large insurance company, and when COVID happened, they freaked out because they couldn't go home to home with the lockdowns, right? So we switched them over to Zoom, and their sales like almost tripled for the simple reason, besides what we had already trained them, The simple reason is they were getting 3 times as many appointments a day because their reps weren't driving all over America.
Right. Okay. And Jeremy, the second question I have for you is that
and I will tell you, most seniors know how to get on Zoom now because they go to church on Zoom or their relatives are on Zoom. So like, you know, whereas a year ago, maybe 20% of seniors know how to get on Zoom, I guarantee you probably 75, 80% know how to get on it without you even showing them.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
And yeah, the second question is that sometimes, you know, I meet with a couple or with a single person, and they recently bought life insurance, and they still, you know, kept the appointment with me, and they show me their policy, I guess, during the problem awareness stage, and I'm reviewing it. And in some cases, what happens is that I think I can do a much better job as far as maybe saving them some money on a monthly premium, or getting them more coverage for the same premium they're currently paying. Okay. So, I mean, when do I propose that? I mean, when do I tell them, look, I mean, I can do a much better job than what you already
in
have?
The presentation stage. And you wouldn't say I can do a much better job.
Right.
But the problem awareness and solution awareness questions, you're finding out, you know, do you like the coverage that you have now with this company, right? So you're finding out what they do like, what they don't, right? And you're clarifying and probing to pull out their pain, their problem. And then you're helping them see that they have other problems, because maybe this is a $200,000 policy, right? And what happens if her husband dies tomorrow, who maybe works full time and she's a stay-at-home mom? Is that $200,000 going to really cover them for the next 30 years? Right?
Right.
So there's questions you're asking them in the problem awareness and solution awareness stage that gets them to think that, oh my gosh, what if something happens? The coverage we have is not going to be adequate enough. And here are the consequences if we don't do anything about this now and something happens. So yeah, in the presentation stage, that's where you're going back and you're feeding back what they said their problems were and how you solve those.
Thank you, Jeremy. And one final question, Jeremy. Yesterday, I spoke with somebody over the phone, and this was more like a direct mail lead. Like, she filled out a card like several weeks ago, and I just received the card back. Yeah. And when I asked her this question, like, what is it about the card that actually got her attention? And she said to me, oh, you know, it's been such a rough day. I don't even remember what got my attention. I'm coming from Best Buy, and I had an argument.
Yeah, that's not a problem. Do you know what you're looking for? That's it. Yeah, that's not a problem. Do you know what you don't hang on to that so much, right? You're connecting questions for what you sell, since it's an inbound lead. Now, if you're door to door, you wouldn't use connecting questions, guys. So like Joel and Brandon, you're not using connecting questions door to door. There's some differences, okay? But since you're getting inbound leads, don't hang on to them having to answer what was it about the card that attracted their attention. I don't even know if I would ask that question because it's a card. So I guess what was it like when you went through the details, so how did they get this card, just so I understand?
This is like a postcard which mentions about like state regulated life insurance programs. It's actually in the in your NEPQ book of like calling leads. There's a script for this, by the way, for the state with the senior benefit. So there's a script for this for the connecting questions. And that's why
connecting questions. I don't know if I'd word it the way you did. Maybe you didn't word it that way. But so when you saw the card that got in your mail and you read about the insurance policies and blah, 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 you say a little bit more. Like if you just say, what was it about the card that attracted your attention?
Mm-hmm.
Does she even remember that? So I was just curious, when you went through the card that we had sent you in the mail, where it was talking about the different insurance policies and the state regulations, what was it about what they were talking about that I guess caused you to want to book with us, or that attracted your attention to have the call with us? Now they're like, oh, I don't remember. I just got back from Best Buy. Yeah, that's not a problem. Do you know what you're looking for? Actually, I wouldn't even ask her that. I'd go right into situation questions. Yeah, that's not a problem. Can I ask what you have in place now, and ask your first situation question?
Okay.
That's what I would do right there. You just don't dwell on it.
Okay. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you so much.
Welcome. You're welcome. Go ahead, Evans. What do you sell?
Hey, Jeremy. Yeah. So what I sell is digital marketing training for affiliate marketing and digital marketing in general, which is 3 different programs. Affiliate marketing training for $2,500, mastermind additional to that with mastermind and events for 4,500 and coaching for 9,600.
Okay.
So my question is about when I'm in the discovery call, and I'm going through the questions, and I go through the solution awareness, and I get to talking about their financial goals. And I noticed that you take people through 4 different levels. So you ask them, okay, if you, let's say you were making this type of money, what would you do with it, right? And then they say, I would do this, I would buy that, I would do this.
Well, first of all, you have to find out what they want to make. So what is your question on that? Just be more specific.
So I want to, yeah, I do find out what they want to make, or they also fill the questionnaire. I can ask them from what they responded in the questionnaire. So I do type both ways. But my question is, do I have to take them through those 4 levels every time, or that
depends?
depends?
The highest if you do. Yeah.
Okay.
So tell me about the income. You had mentioned that because what you're selling is a business opportunity, right? They respond because they want to make more money. They want to have more time. That's what you do.
Yeah.
A lot of companies in space. So tell me about the income. You had mentioned that you wanted to make more money. And I've never been involved in the type of work you're doing. But like you said, when you work for someone else, sometimes you're fairly limited on what they're going to want to pay you. Now, without that limit there, what would you want to make in your own business? Like, what would be like your ideal income? Let's say even annually, what would you really want to make? Role play with me.
All right. So yeah, I would want to make 10K a month.
Okay. So about 120,000 a year.
Yeah.
Okay. So between what you and your spouse make together now, like with all your incomes combined, how close are you to like 120,000 a year?
Yeah, well, I guess we're 70% close.
Okay, so you're about 70% of the way there. So if you stay in this job alone that you have now, and just be real with me, but realistically, how many years would it take you before you yourself were making 120,000 every single year just yourself?
Yeah, I think it would take me maybe 3 years or more. Maybe, I'm not sure.
Let's say that we're able to help get you to this $120,000 a year like profit margin range, because that's increasing income 40-50% compared to what you're doing now. What would you do with the extra money coming in though?
Oh, I think we would move to a better house, and I would be able to, I guess afford, not have to worry about money. So yeah, I would definitely travel more with my family and all of those.
Would you? So being able to do that, what would that do for you, I guess, personally?
Yeah, I think I would definitely not have to, I guess, have a better quality of life for myself and my family.
Hold on. How do you mean by better quality of life?
Yeah, I mean, not having to, sometimes I have to sacrifice. I want to take my family, I want to take them on a holiday, or I want to.
How long has that been going on for?
Yeah, I guess for the past, I'd say 2-3 years. It has been like that.
Has it had an impact on you guys?
Yeah, I'd say that sometimes it does. It does
In what
have
way?
an impact. I mean, yeah, we want to do things. It's frustrating, right?
Is it?
And yeah, it's frustrating, and we even argue sometimes here with my wife. But
how
yeah,
would it be different though? Like being able to take that away, like how would your life be? I don't know. Maybe even different than it is now.
Yeah, I think it would definitely be, I guess, more lighter. I mean, I wouldn't have to worry about those things. I guess I would be happier.
But what if you don't do anything? Like if you just stay at the job you have now another 5 or 10 years?
Oh no, that couldn't happen. That just can't. I have to.
It's important for you to do something then.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what I really needed to know, because based on what you've told me. All right. Did you see how that went?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There was a few things in there. Did anybody notice a few things that I did? What did I compare there? So realize what he's selling is a business opportunity where a person can buy into like a digital marketing company and learn how to market affiliate products for other companies. Okay, that's what he's selling. Okay, so the two biggest problems that he solves is lack of time and lack of money. That's why people respond to their company's ads. So what did I compare there? What did I just do with where he wants to be compared to where he is now? Did anybody notice what question I asked?
Yeah, how long would it take you to get there?
So I said,
If you
between
stay-
what you and your spouse make together now, with all your incomes combined, how many years would it take you before you yourself were making, and I repeated back his goal, every single year? Then he said it was going to take me 3 or 4 years. Most of the people in your industry will say, oh, I don't think I could ever get to that. That's what most of them.
Yeah.
Now, all he's done in his mind right now is said, here's where I want to be. I want to do this. And he's just said, if I stay in my job, I'm never going to get there. That's what he just
So does
said.
that mean that the higher the goal, the better? Like the bigger the gap?
And it is realistic. But if he says like
Okay.
120 and he's making 100 now, then obviously there's not as much gap. So if they say that, well, hold on, you're already at 100 now. Like, what do you really want to make? Because that's only 20% more. Like, what do you really want to make if you could? Oh, I'd want to make 200,000 a year. Oh, okay. See, that creates more of a gap.
But what about the opposite? If they're not making that much income and they say, oh, I want to make more than 100K.
And that's good. That's a bigger gap.
It's better. So the more, the better.
Unless they say like, I want to make $10 million. It's not realistic, right? So with what you're selling, you want them to say at least 100,000 a year, right? Because they're not going to invest 10 grand to make an extra 20 grand a year.
Exactly.
Right? Okay. Does that help you?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right. So I've got time for one more question. Gina, I'm going to save yours for Voxer because you're one of my inner circle students. So I'll just Vox you back and forth if you don't mind. Okay. I'll be out of my office here in just a little bit. I have to do a live real quick for the group and then I'm headed out and I'll just Vox you back. Okay. Is that okay, Gina? All right, perfect. Let's go over to, I think it's Torgeir. Is it Torgeir? Am I pronouncing your name right?
Yeah, almost. Torgeir.
Okay, man.
You can call me TJ.
TJ.
Yeah, do
TJ?
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What do you sell
Just
to?
do that. It's a digital market research platform.
Digital marketing research platform?
It's a platform for marketing research.
Okay. And who do you sell to? Like what type of person or company or?
It's companies, Fortune 500 or similar. So, we are doing the training, the sales team, and the kind of training they want us to do is different from what you teach, and and it's giving me a hard time because I want to sell NEPQ way, and so every time I try that, I get pulled back to that partially.
They don't want you to ask questions to pull out more emotion.
Well, they do, but it's like 50% the same as you. They want me to find the problems and stuff like that, but they also want me to have a high energy. They want me to set the agenda in the meeting.
What do you mean by high energy? What does that mean?
And yeah, they are very different.
Drink a Red Bull and then jump on there and like yell, you're so excited, or just like you're right now?
No, I think they want me to be more than I am now. It's like excited.
Can I make a suggestion to you? Especially with B2B, the more excited you are, what do you think is going on in your prospect's mind?
Well, it's sales pressure, I guess.
The more sophisticated the buyer you're talking to, the more likely your enthusiasm is going to turn them off. I hate to tell you that.
Yeah.
Do your sales managers not understand that the more enthusiasm you throw out, it's the same thing. Like if a salesperson called you and was extremely excited, what would you do?
I'll hang up.
Okay, here's what a lot of people don't understand. That's how you react to salespeople, but then you think that somehow they're not going to react to you the same way.
Yeah, and I just try to, since I'm not, it's a big sales team, so since I'm quite new, I try not to mean too much, if you understand what I'm saying.
I understand. You're going to have to intermingle your NEPQ questions in with what you're doing now until you get it down. And when you get it
Absolutely.
down, I'll tell you, if you're doubling sales over everybody else, they're not going to care how you sell. In fact, they're going to ask you what you're doing.
Absolutely. But I have two questions then. First of all, they want me to create more rapport in the start of the conversation.
What does that mean?
Acknowledge the person, ask questions about the person, and before I kind of go into the connecting stage. And
So does your lead come to you? Did they book on your calendar?
Yeah, it's inbound. It's
okay.
Yeah.
So what are your first words out of your mouth? You asking them how the weather is?
No, I welcome them to the call, of course, and then I kind of started asking them, how did you get that position as a CMO or something like that, right?
Okay, so are you selling one-on-one or one to a few?
It's one-on-one.
Okay, so you're selling one-on-one, okay, and your boss wants you to ask them how they got their position at a CMO.
Yeah, it's like something that shows interest in them before we dive into.
How do people typically react to you when you start talking about those things?
Well, I haven't started selling yet. It's I'm just joined the team. This is just how they want me to talk.
Typically, like, because we train a lot of companies in, well, very large organizations. Google's one of our largest clients. And they did the same thing, like, you know, talk, especially if it was B2B, like, oh, how did you get this? Like, you know, oh, I noticed the picture on your back wall. Like, I like to fish too. You can do that. It's just with certain personalities, especially if they're A personalities, which a lot of people you're selling to are, it's going to trigger them to say, well, hey, can you just get to the point? Or I don't have very long. It's just going to trigger that, because every salesperson that's selling them anything every day is doing the exact same thing you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So you sound like everybody else. And you sound like everybody else, they commoditize you. So if you just go in, I don't mind asking a question like, okay, John, looks like you booked on my calendar today about possibly looking at X, Y, and Z. Now I was just curious, like when you went through, now how did they even book on your calendar? Did they see an ad, or how do they even know about you?
Yeah, it's an ad, and they go through a funnel, so they know basically a lot about.
Now, hey, I was just curious, when you went through the ad, where you saw X and Y and Z and all those people, what was it about the I guess the ad that attracted your attention? Okay, and connecting questions are meant to put the focus on them and take it off you.
I did exactly.
Yeah, they help you. That's the first part of getting them to persuade themselves. You asking them, you know, right when you get on the call. So, oh, how did you get involved in your CMO position? It's not really helping you at all make that sale.
No. So I did exactly like you did now. I followed your script just like you teach in the course. And then I get the feedback afterwards. You should have created more rapport in the start. You didn't set the agenda and stuff like that. And
so
I'm deliberately.
I don't know what you mean by setting the agenda. What does it even mean?
That lays out what we expect from this call, right? So they want us to say that during this call, we will talk a little bit about you and your company and what you're looking for.
So this is the same thing. So you do need, when I say set the agenda, that means different, something different for me.
Yeah.
Okay. So after, you know, hey, looks like you booked on my calendar about X, Y, and Z. Now this first call is really more for me to find out more about your background as far as what you've done in X and Y and Z, and then what you're looking for in X and B and C to see if we could actually help you.
Mm-hmm.
That would be setting the agenda for what we do. So you would need to put that into your sales structure. You forgot that part.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. And one last thing that I react on is those neutral words, might, possibly, and words like that. They say that it sounds like you don't believe in our product and stuff like that.
Well, why don't you just assume and say, you're going to love our product. It's going to do the greatest things for you, and see how they react to that.
That's exactly how they want me to say
Then you'll
that.
know.
So, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, they booked on your calendar. They obviously have problems, right? So this first call is really more for us to find out more about your background as far as X and Y and Z, and then kind of what you're looking for in A, B, and C to see if we could actually help you. When you say that, it lowers their guard. When you're unbiased and you say to see if we could actually help you, that implies that you might not be able to help them because you don't know yet. You don't know anything about them. And so when they feel like you're unbiased, rather than trying to pounce them on the head, they start to open up to you. When they feel like you are biased and you're just trying to sell them, what do you think they do? They close down.
Yeah.
And there's no emotion. And no emotion, no sale.
Okay.